straight to backy.
Yeah, I thought you were dipping for a sec.
I don't miss those days in my life in any way.
Repulsive.
You ever do it?
No.
Oh. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Wednesday, October 25th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Chris Spags. We are brought to you by Bet365. Very different day today. Just a two-gamer with Laffy, so we were allowed to be ourselves for an hour. This one's going to be a bit different. 12 games to get through, an hour and 15 minutes to do it. It's going to be fun. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, notification bell, all that good stuff. Follow us both on Twitter. That would help as well. Spags, why have you never dipped?
So actually, I was thinking about it. I did once do the chewing part at Barstool, but didn't know how to do it and immediately wanted to throw up violently.
Yeah.
So that's the one experience I had. But now, grow up on the Northeast. I'm surprised you have, I guess. But Northeast to West Coast, dip wasn't a big thing unless you're already doing it. So I never got peer pressured into giving it a shot, really.
So I'm from a trash portion of the East where everyone you get one in your baby bottle type stuff. It's really garbage, people. I didn't start it till high school. The obvious peer pressure things. It got really fun to do when we were golfing. And then I did it during, this was, once or twice a week at best for me. Some people a lot more than that. But one day I was doing it on the golf course and it was, 100 degrees. I swallowed a bit too much of it, got really sick, yerped all over the course. Never been able to do it since. I can't smell that stuff without it turning my stomach. And the more interesting piece to all of this, I believe that black olives taste like that, and they are a death sentence for me.
I like black olives. I don't see that. I do enjoy, though, because I watched the strategy show this morning with you and Greg, and I appreciate that now in every stream for the day, it's you talking about vomiting in some capacity. I think that's what people are here for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm known for it in the city of Chicago as well. So evidently I'm just draws.
You're not allowed back because of all the vomiting you did everywhere on great landmarks. You were like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, just puke strewn everywhere.
So yeah, I can't eat black olives.
Huh, good to know. I guess I won't send you that jar of black olives I've been planning on sending you then.
That's good. It might just be my least favorite food because it's that and tomatoes.
Huh. You got some weird taste, man.
Tomatoes as a whole.
Yes, black olives, no.
No, just tomatoes as a tomato, not sauce or ketchup or soup, anything like that. Just tomato as itself.
You don't like ketchup on eggs either, though. So that's still ketchup.
No one should. That's disgusting. That's just dumb. That's just dumb. Ketchup on eggs is dumb.
Better. Everything better.
What are you, Donald Trump?
If I had a good impression, it'd be a good time to bust it out, but I won't.
If I were Shane Gillis, I would never stop talking like that.
No, I would never stop.
It's so good. It's so good. Oh my God. What about a tomato on a burger or something? No, and we just had this conversation, burgers and tomatoes, but no, not a chance. Not a chance.
It freshens it up. Love tomatoes. Very juicy. Buffalo tomatoes, delightful. Tomatoes with mozzarella. Oh man, great times for everybody. The tomato for every season is what I say. Fried green tomatoes, emotional film, great food item. Support it all.
Yeah. I can't do a nice bruschetta. It's just okay, that's too much tomato. Salsa is like a non-chunky salsa is the best that I can do.
You want a watery salsa? You don't want any half.
No, not necessarily watery. It can have some thickness to it, but the dice of the tomato is the issue. It needs to be of a certain size. The bigger it gets, the more problematic it is.
You're like reverse Anthony Bourdain. You just want specific things in certain times. You don't want any mystery to it at all.
Don't want to totally be like Anthony Bourdain, but
you're reverse in that respect too. You continue to live.
I'll take the fame and the travel.
Parts known today on the NBA with Josh.
Yeah, I'd like to be pretty good at jiu-jitsu. He was that. Yeah. Anyway, you want to talk some NBA?
I'm dying for it. No pun intended with the Bourdains.
Poor timing there, brother. Poor timing. No reservations.
Canceled. Again.
Oh boy. Let's do this because we do have 12 games. Jokes aside, okay, I said this earlier, I'm going to repeat it for you guys. It's kind of easy to do 12 game slates because most people on every team are completely useless to talk about. It's hard for me to want to be well, this guy's 4% owned. You should really it's just some of these guys are 30%. They're the guys we're going to highlight. And then whoever we think is super interesting. The Atlanta Hawks are on the road in Charlotte, taking on the Hornets. 3.5-point favorites. That would be the Hawks. 236 total. This is the game with the biggest total on the slate. Atlanta's pretty normal at this point. They shipped John Collins out, but otherwise, this is basically the exact same team we saw last year. Highest owned guy on DraftKings from Atlanta appears to be 4% owned Onyeka Okongwu. Do you see anything for the Atlanta Hawks that really stands out to you?
No, and it's weird because I feel like every year in the NBA, this game happens, or not every year, obviously multiple times a year, and this game happens and somebody goes off on one of these sides and it's like the slate starts and you're like, am I buried already? And then the player kind of slows down and they might not end up making the winning lineup by the end of it all. And I feel like that's the case for this game again, where like two defenses that aren't that good, pretty decent point total in this one as well. So like you kind of, I think, can make sense of going to this game. One of the highest point totals on the slate today, but the price tags are all kind of gross. And like Trae Young is almost 10K. I think you get to a little bit of these guys just to break it up. You know, the Sims exposure for me, nobody more than 5%, but the plays don't individually look that good, but like this game could have a lot of points and it feels like you should get more.
Yeah, like if someone is really on the Trae Young side today, I don't think that that's crazy at all. Charlotte on the opposite end, Trae Young is fantastic. He's 9,800. I would not be surprised at all if he had some sort of tournament winning score, but he's just going to look very similar to a lot of other pay up options. And that's really what starts to happen here. If you're not separating from the pack, then you are likely just sitting in a pack of 10 dudes that look exactly like you do. Trae Young is 3% owned. If you want to play 10% of Trae Young in a large field contest, you're taking a sizable stand. And if he busts, it's really not all that impactful to what you're doing. That's sort of the theme of everything that we're going to touch on. I think Trae Young is probably my favorite option from Atlanta. Saddiq Bey, I think, is pretty interesting for 5K. Small forward, power forward. Looks like he's going to be getting the start in John Collins' stead. But even still, he's 2% owned. He's a value play that is very uninteresting.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's Trae or bust on the Atlanta side. I got a little bit of Okongwu, a little bit of Capella, not much else to really note besides Trae Young. So yeah, it's a nice spot. Like I feel like if you took a few pieces, this game went off. If you're putting 150, I don't hate the idea of game stacking this, but naturally projection wise, I just can't imagine you're going to get a lot.
Charlotte Hornets on the opposite end of this one, sort of the same team. Miles Bridges still not here. Whether or not he shows up is up for debate at this point. Gordon Hayward still around these parts. We've got LaMelo Ball healthy, Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, Mark Williams getting starting his second year, now firmly entrenched as the starting center. I like Mark Williams quite a bit. He is 8% owned. That is the second high mark behind PJ Washington at 9%. I'm going to end up getting to a little bit more of the Charlotte side, but it's not the guys that I would have expected.
Yeah, I think that Mark Williams looks strong. I heard you, and again, I don't want to keep referencing your and Craig's show and then just taking the points and going like, yeah, I agree, like good points. But Mark Williams is like a center. There's a lot of centers in this price range that look kind of okay. Mark Williams, 1.1 fantasy points per minute last year. I have no issue with that. Obviously at his price tag, but there's better plays probably, or at least comparable plays. You're not going to get too much Mark Williams. I still think he's pretty fine. I'll be with the field on him. And LaMelo Ball, I think I'll have double the field. It looks like based on the exposures there, not a terrible price tag, I suppose. That is a little bit more expensive than Trae Young's. But LaMelo, just such an important part of this offense. And there is, I think, some backcourt minutes to go around. So I guess that's why I'm getting there. But not the strongest stand. I just think this game is one where it's going to go with a lot of the chalkier pieces we're going to talk about. You're going to flesh out your rosters with your Talen Horton-Tuckers, your Obi Toppins, all those guys. But then you get a little bit of LaMelo Ball, and it's like, great, I have him covered now if he goes for 70 tonight, and I think that's the only way to play it.
Someone's going to win the tournament with someone no one else is playing that we're talking about. Yeah, it's a 12-game slate on opening night. I mean, and you don't have to be anywhere near an optimal lineup for today. There's going to be 20, 30, 40 points clear at the top end before you get to what is going to be the winning lineup. So yeah, there's going to be a whole boatload of dudes that score a lot of fantasy points that are basically 1% owned. That is going to happen. That's what happens in the NBA.
Yeah, and it also, I know you've kind of talked about this before, but it's like you can't play everybody, and if the rest of the field's not playing those guys either, it doesn't really hurt or help you if you do try to jam that guy in.
I have a sneaky suspicion. So I'm only playing 2 shots into the 888 today. I don't really care to try. I'm going to say this a little bit differently. If you're a member of Stochastic, or you're about to sign up using the promo code TIPOFF with the link in the description, and you're using our Sims tool, this is going to be the perfect opportunity to use it because the sim tool will take care of late swap. That is a massive, massive thing to handle in the NBA. You're constantly rerunning lineups and optimizing as the slate goes on. If you don't, you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball. However, I don't want to do that shit today. I just want to sit back and watch some basketball. And so I'm going to play 2 lineups. I could very easily manage 2 with a late swap. I just don't want to late swap through 150 all the way up until 10 o'clock. These past 2 days have been long. So it's a great tool and it works perfectly for you for late swap. I just don't want to use it today, but I will use it on Friday.
Yeah, I tested it a little last night. I didn't swap anything because I know you made a very courageous stand not playing Nikola Jokic very much. I made the courageous stand of separating Nikola Jokic and Chris Paul because I thought those were the guys who were going to pop together in every lineup. Turns out you needed both of them to get there. So that also didn't work out for me. Yeah. But the late swap tool works great. I know, one thing that I'll do is a little bit of a different wrinkle is I'm going to actually take the ownership in real time from the tournaments and just plug it in as, when I'm running the reswap and the resim. So that's something, like it's a great tool, works very efficiently, about as idiot proof as you can get. So I would advocate for it for sure. If you can figure it out in one night, like I did yesterday, I think you'll be good to go for tonight as well.
And for all the people that have just had no trouble letting me know how stupid it is to ever want to fade Nikola Jokic, don't be afraid to pull up our post-contest sims and start sorting that by sim ROI and see whose name is significantantly higher. Yeah, that's what happens when you fade Jokic. Yeah, sometimes you're going to make a shit ton of money. Sometimes you're not going to make any money. Right, like it takes one play and all of a sudden 60% of the lineups are completely out of the contest last night. You can't just look at it like
you'd be golden.
Yeah, be fantastic. If he puts up 55, things would have been pretty decent. Anyway, let's get through that first game. We're going to go now Washington and Indiana. The Washington Wizards are going to be just a real troublesome watch for Adam Scher once he gets back. 5-point dogs in Indiana, 234 total for this one. Highest owned guy in this game is slightly different than what we've talked about. 34% ownership coming in to Tyus Jones. He is 4,900, the starting point guard for the Washington Wizards. How do you feel about that ownership today on Jones?
Bullish on it, I suppose, because I'm going to get over the field based on the sims that I ran before the show. He does have a 54% boom rate according to the boom bust tool, so I feel less bad about the 47% sim exposure I'm getting. I worry about this play a little bit. Like the value metrics look great. I actually have them for my projections a little bit lower than Stochastics. That still is a 6.5x value relative to salary. The part that I worry about is Jordan Poole. Like he had a 35% usage rate in the preseason. Tyus Jones's numbers for the most part held steady with what he did in Memphis in terms of the advanced analytics and all that. But I do think for Poole, it's like, do they need Tyus Jones to bring up the ball? Like it could just be Poole and Kuzma trading the ball, bringing it up, and just getting off bad shots. So I'm going to play a lot of Jones, Josh, but I feel like Poole and Kuzma are going to be the biggest ball hogs I think we've seen outside of Jordan Clarkson. And I think it's something that I worry about for anybody else to get there, just because those guys are going to get up, 70 possessions today, or 70 out of 100.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lighter on Tyus Jones as well, although obviously he stands out. I'm nervous that he doesn't have to close. They like DeLon Wright. Do I think that's going to happen? No. Do I think that they can move these guys around a little bit and we don't see as many minutes out of Tyus Jones? I do think that is in play. But on a point per dollar basis, for what we've seen out of him over the past couple of years when he steps into these roles, I think 4,900 is just, I expect his salary in a week and a half to be in the mid fives to higher fives. And this is just, we're getting $500 or $600 worth of value from it.
I think he can get to the sixes if he's actually assisting. If he's assisting to his full capability and running an offense and doing the things that he's done pretty well in Memphis. I think he can actually be a guy that adds value to Poole and Kuzma. I just worry that he's the one stuck in the corner watching these guys jack up mid-range shots that are not the most wisely advised. And I think that's where a little bit of risk to Tyus Jones. But like Josh mentioned, the salary is too cheap. And I can't ignore that. The salary is just going to allow you to get to a lot of other things.
It's not going to be a volume play, but I like Kuzma at 7K, 6% owned. This, he's no different than Jordan Poole. He thinks he's significantly better than he is. And that becomes problematic when there's nobody else around. There's not a true person to stop him from doing this. Poole and Kuzma are just going to start jacking shots today. Massive, massive usage rate. And there's nobody else on this team that offers that same sort of ability. So I think he looks pretty sneaky at power forward only, 6% owned.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think I agree that there's similar plays, except Kuzma actually might grab a few rebounds and add
Yeah.
something in the way of peripherals. So that's a positive for him too, but a little bit cheaper. It does feel like, DraftKings prices these guys both up a little bit too much, especially Poole, where Poole at 8,100, I get the assumption that he's going to put up a lot of shots. He had the one outlier game in the preseason. It just feels like it's a bit of an unfair price tag for Poole. Whereas if he were 7K like Kuzma is, I'd probably be touting him pretty heavy. For 8,100, it's like he's got to be such an outlier in a way that I can't possibly see happening.
Sure. And then I'm going to do the same gimmick that I had for the strategy show earlier today. Add Daniel Gafford to the list of centers that you're able to get to in the 5s and 6s. There's every team's basically got one guy within $1,500 of each other that looks like a really nice point per dollar play. DraftKings needs to do something with these center salaries or think about the entire process, because it's really hard to grab one of these guys when they all look identical.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're going to be very split ownership for me because none of them really stand out meaningfully. We'll see as we go, but nobody really before the show seemed like they stood out that meaningfully.
All right. Anything else for Washington?
No, I think that the Tyus Jones part covers it pretty well. Like you mentioned, a little bit of exposure to Poole and Kuzma, a little bit of Denny Avdia. Maybe one of those times he's going to be waving his arms out there as the guys are shooting the shots and they'll actually pass it to him. That's the outcomes I'm playing for on the spectrum of possibilities. But I think it's really, to me, Tyus Jones and not much else here to really love more than 5%.
And by the way, Tyus Jones also very chalky on FanDuel, 5,700, 35% owned. I wish I liked the Knicks more. Boston Celtics, 3.5-point favorites. I really want to check them out.
Indiana?
Oh shit! Yeah, let's talk about Indiana. Nothing interesting to talk about for the Indiana Pacers today. Oh wait, there is. My bad. Obi Toppin, new power forward for the Indiana Pacers today. DraftKings didn't get the memo, however, that he is in the NBA. 3K, flat minimum price tag, power forward center. He is the easiest guy to roster today because that price tag is just sneaky dumb. 44% owned on DraftKings and 3% owned on FanDuel, where he's 5,100. Do you have any hot takes from Obi Toppin? I can pretty much guarantee he's going to be in both of the lineups that I play in the 888.
So I have a question for you because I know you're doing the minutes. I didn't get to watch the process this morning and see how you aligned it. But Obi Toppin, you've got him at 30 minutes, I think you said?
I have him at 28 now.
Okay. So yeah, Stochastic has him at 24. So I'm getting less of him with the Sims. Like if he were at 28, I would think I would get him like 70%. Because he's at 24 with the Stochastic minutes projections, I'm getting him at about 33%. So coming in under the field. I think that's a pretty fluid spot that I'm worried about, hearing you talk about it. Obviously, people liked what he did in the preseason a little bit. I don't think the advanced numbers, the usage rate didn't seem that different from what he did in the Knicks. So I'm not sure that it's going to be a much different situation overall for him. But I really do think this is one of those spots where if it's 28 minutes, I think he's a play that just pops in with no questions. At 24 minutes, it's like, okay, we're talking a 21.6 projection for me, 22.2 for Stochastic. That's not like as much of a jam in play. I don't know. Where would you put the over under at for minutes? Like, do you feel like the over under is at 28?
Yeah, I mean, assuming he's the starting power forward, we have to just we're not talking about foul trouble or anything like that, because obviously that impacts everyone. He's going to play at least 3 rotations, and then the final piece would be, is he playing the fourth quarter rotation? And as I look at the Pacers, I don't really see what they would be doing to run out a different 5-man lineup in the end. What if you're going to get Halliburton and you're going to get Turner? Like, full stop, right away, those 2 guys are going to be in there. I would assume Bruce Brown is going to be in any sort of closing lineup at that point. And then it's going to be what? Some combination. Do you want to play Bruce Brown at the 4 and go Mather and Hield? I think that's really the only other thing.
Might be it, yeah.
I'm an Obi Toppin believer. Even if I dropped him down to 26, he's the 3K price tag is just ridiculous. You're still going to need 30 plus fantasy points from him to feel like great about trying to win a GPP, just because we're going to have so many players scoring that someone is going to have some sort of combination. I like him a lot more in like the 888, where it's a smaller field, and in that smaller field, his value really shines. It really unlocks a lot more for you. I'd be very surprised if he played less than 26 minutes.
It's interesting because I trust your minutes projections as well. Obviously, I use stochastic minute projections to build off of for my stuff too. So it's an interesting question. I'm curious to see if they update throughout the day, because I think you've dug your heels in and made a good case for it. And I agree. Like, I think the best outcome would be Obi playing, closing in that group and playing a good amount of minutes. They have enough wings where it's like they could go a little bit small. And what's threatening you on the Washington side? Like, what's Denny Avdia going to crash the boards and really make it hard for you? So they could play a little bit weird. I think if you're going to fade Toppin or something in the big tournaments, like I think that'd be the logic you go with, is that they can go small. Maybe one of these other guys benefits instead.
And big reminder here, this is the first day of the NBA season for all of these teams. Like, no one's got a great feel for any of this. My confidence level for what I'm saying is much lower than it would be if this was like a January game. I say 28, but like there are certainly error bars on that are much bigger than they normally are.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think, it's hard to imagine them not getting you 20. It's just in the big tournaments, like, is that 20 enough? But I think the high dollar stuff that you're doing, obviously that 20 is like, cool. You don't have to worry about the position. Then you feel good about spending somewhere else.
All right. Let's talk for the rest of Indiana. 17% ownership coming into Miles Turner at 5,900. He's a bit more expensive on FanDuel, where he's 7,800. I have no issue at all getting to Miles Turner. He grades out really well for me. That price tag is too low. But with so many centers on this slate, I'm not going to get married to specific guys in the mid-tier when I think there are slightly worse point per dollar plays that are going to pull no ownership at all.
Yeah, I agree. I think Miles Turner, I think, looks like a better version of the guys we've already talked about, the Mark Williamses, the Gaffords. I like Miles Turner. I think the price tag's reasonable, but I'm getting about 13% with the Sims, and then the field's going to be at about 15%, I believe. So, or 17%, excuse me. So for Miles Turner, if you're within the range of the field, I think that's fine. It's hard to imagine like wanting to double up because of all we've talked about already, with just a lot of centers you could play or kind of the same play.
Anything else for the Pacers?
Taste of Tyrese Halliburton, I think, looks okay. Bruce Brown as well, just because of the potential of getting minutes, I think looks like an okay play. Healed, Mathurin, not so much. I think it's pretty much just Halliburton, Brown, or Obi Toppin, and you can play it however you want, but you're gonna get a lot of Obi Toppin no matter what you're playing.
All righty. Boston Celtics, New York Knicks. I was so excited to talk about the Boston Celtics. I tried to jump the gun here. Knicks are 3.5 point dogs at home, 223 total. And if you remember playing anything against the Knicks last year, they're usually not the spot you're looking to grab a bunch of fantasy guys. Now, I do like Drew Holiday quite a bit. He is 6,100 on DraftKings. He is 7,500 on FanDuel, 21% owned on DK, because Drew Holiday just simply shouldn't be 6,100.
Yeah, I would agree. It's hard to see him being that, though the usage rate was pretty low. And like, I know you do the usage yourself and try to project that a little bit. Like, nobody's going to crest 30% usage on this team, right? Because of all the guys they have now in that starting five. Like, I don't see how they could.
I mean, if it's it's Tatum or no one.
Right.
And I have him in for 28.
Yeah, I think Drew looks good. The price looks good. We know he can contribute in peripherals as well. In the preseason, he was the one that kind of acquiesced the most, it seemed, where I believe Tatum was at like 29.8. Brown was a little bit beneath that. And then Porzingis was 22. And then Holiday, just coming to the team, obviously late after that trade and all that, was giving it up and was under 20% usage. So maybe that's the one thing you can sort of nickel and dime when he was, 25% usage rate guy last year in Milwaukee. But I still like the price tag for Drew. I think he's a good lever, similar price point to Tyus Jones. Maybe not similar enough, but still, I think a guy you can get to with a little bit of money saved. So like Drew, like Porzingis, but I feel like Tatum and Brown, I don't know how you pay Tatum's price tag unless you know something that nobody else knows.
No, I don't see it at all here. Holiday and Zinger are the only two guys that I've been wanting to go to. Like, obviously, if Derek White or Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum show up in lineups, you're not like, oh no, I got to get these guys out of there. Like, these guys are all fine to roster. They're just not heavily prioritized.
Yeah, and the projection is just so far from where it has to be that you really have to like luck box something here that is not the way that anybody would expect it to go. So yeah, I think I'm with you. I think it's Holiday, Porzingis, and everybody else here. It's just a lot of guys that are going to be competing for their own shots, and we'll see how it goes. This is one where I feel like a week of data on the Celtics will make me feel a lot better about how to project them out.
I think they're going to be really uninteresting in DFS, and they're just going to beat the living shit out of everybody every night. It's so much work to go against their first six dudes.
It's crazy what they did for themselves in terms of the moves they made and the guys they got for really not giving up a whole lot to get that outcome. What they lost Grant Williams. So no, the Celtics fans will be really upset about that.
I mean, they turned Marcus Smart into Drew Holiday in a way.
Yeah, the better, more sane version of Marcus Smart, who can actually score and not shoot 20 ill-advised times. Yeah, that's a pretty big win.
Ignoring draft assets, obviously. They basically cut off Malcolm Brogdon to turn Marcus Smart and Robert Williams into Drew Holiday. They cut off Brogdon and Grant Williams to turn Marcus Smart and Robert Williams into Holiday and Porzingis. Like, that's just an incredible consolidation of talent.
It's also hilarious to me too that some of the Boston fans that I follow on social media who are in the best ball streets, NBA best ball closing out yesterday, people still drafted Peyton Pritchard, and it's like, how many injuries does Peyton Pritchard need to be viable at any point? Like, he needs 5 now.
No, he's not. He's not going to get a ton of run.
No.
I mean, he'll be, the backup point guard.
Yeah, the backup point guard who's not even really the point guard because somebody else will be on the court with him taking all the shots and handling the ball. Yeah.
Yep. New York Knicks on the opposite end of this one. Highest owned guy for the Knicks on DraftKings is 6% owned Jalen Brunson. On FanDuel, that is 8% owned Emmanuel Quickley, which feels like a real big reach. I don't see anything that gets me excited here. Mitchell Robinson on the list of centers. If I'm going to anybody, it's Julius Randle, and it's just because of the power forward eligibility, but they're in for a long night.
Yeah, Randall looks okay to me. Power forward center eligibility on DraftKings, I think pretty solid as well. I'll have about double the field, I think, which isn't saying too much because he's projected for under 5% ownership. And then Jalen Brunson, I'm getting about 7%. Fields at 5.5%. Not a bad price tag on him. We know what Brunson can do. Obviously, really good run for him last year, taking over this role for the Knicks. Everybody else here, I just feel like diminished stars just compared to Randall and Brunson, the guys who are clearly the ones who are hogging basically every possession that this team is getting.
I have nothing else to add for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, it's another Tibbs year. Can't believe that he's still doing this.
almost 1,400 people in here, 149 likes, which is too low of a number. If you are here, hit the like button. It's really helpful to us, and it boosts our ego when we see that number go up. And I personally need a little bit of help in that department. Ego's pretty tiny. Want to try to expand it if I can. I mentioned it before. Promo code is TIPOFF, TIPOFF. And you don't have to type that in if you don't want to. You can click the link in the description, get 20% off any of our NBA packages, Sims. If you just want the lineup generator, you can do that as well. You're getting projections, ownership, our boom bust tool. As I mentioned, the Sims, the late swap ability, the post-contest sim tool where you can check and see how everything looked at lock. It's the best way to analyze your previous performance. All of this, 20% off. If you're not getting in now, you're asleep at the wheel. This deal is going to go away in a couple days, and then you're going to be wondering why you didn't come and join us. So do it. Click the link right now. Houston Rockets. Almost said Texans, and then I almost said Astros. Taking on the Orlando Magic.
Your two real favorite sports.
Yes. Taking on the Magic. They are my East team du jour this year. We've got Fred VanVleet manning the helm for the Rockets now. Kevin Porter Jr., not so much. Alperen Sengun, 10% owned. Jalen Green, 11% owned. If I were going to roster anyone from Houston, it would be those two guys. Do you see anything different for Houston?
No, getting about 25% Jalen Green. I don't feel the most comfortable with it just because Fred VanVleet obviously going to change the equation a little bit. Jalen Green finally showed a little bit of willingness to share the ball last year, which is one thing that was really holding him back, in general. And now I think that with Fred VanVleet being out there, I guess the hope is that Green becomes a more efficient scorer, but he's going to have the ball in his hands a little bit less, which is sort of tough. But still the price tag a little bit too cheap for a guy who could potentially crest towards a 30% usage rate, and it wouldn't be that shocking. So Jalen Green, I think solid. And Sengun is kind of the same thing where Sengun has been playing when there isn't anybody taking the ball away from him. He's kind of been like a little mini Jokic, which might be insane to say, I know, but like in terms of fantasy production, contributing a little bit in every category, doing it obviously not to the scale or success rate of a Jokic, but adding everything everywhere. I don't know if there's a trickle down that's bad for him with VanVleet, again, getting more assists, getting more touches. Jalen Green, then if he's still assisting a little bit, there's just less on the plate available for Sengun. So I still like Sengun for a DFS play, but at about 10% ownership, which basically with the field. So Rockets, kind of interesting team to see play and see how this works out. But I feel like it's just less to go around with VanVleet being there, getting paid the big money.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them and see how these pieces start to fit together. They have a wealth of young talent. I like that they just gave like a heavy bag to Fred VanVleet for short years, just to come in and like organize the team for 2 years while all these young guys start to play a little bit. I think that's a really helpful thing to have around. The Dylan Brooks move, on the other hand, is it's one of those things. They didn't need him, and that's the weird thing to me. Like they have a lot of Dylan Brooksy type dudes. So I wasn't really married to that one, but
You
whatever.
want the
Love the
attitude,
Fred VanVleet play.
maybe. Like if you're building a culture, you want the guy who's going to go and get in people's face. And I could see what they're trying to do. I agree with you, but like I could see with VanVleet, it's like you're bringing professionalism, a guy that is going to run around the screens. He's overcome a lot being a little guy, and you have Dylan Brooks, who's like willing to go mouth to mouth, willing to go ass to ass with LeBron and just see how it goes. But, it's I get what they're going
tip.
for. Tip to tip, docking LeBron.
Anything else for Houston?
Once we got to docking, I think we're good.
Oh man. The Orlando Magic. Not a lot of ownership coming into this team on DraftKings. 6% to Fultz is the high watermark, but Markelle Fultz is also 25% owned on FanDuel, where he's 5,900. And Paolo Banchero is 22% owned on FanDuel, where he's 7,500, just slightly under the $8,900 price tag he got on DK. Orlando is basically off the table for me. I like Franz Wagner at 6,100, but I don't see him as any sort of priority. The type of guy that I would want to take a flyer on in a GPP, but I don't expect to have Orlando.
Yeah, exact same for me, so we could save some time on it. I think flyers on Wendell Carter, Wagner, Fultz, anything else here. Like, again, 8,900 for Banchero is pretty tough. I think he's a very talented guy, but there's a lot of guys, they've quietly built up a nice war chest of vaguely talented guys. Some of them more disappointing than others, like Jalen Suggs, but still, they're all there. They're still trying to get some shots up. So hard to hit your ceiling, I feel like, at 9K for Banchero.
Yeah, that's a big number. I'm a big fan of his. I'm really excited to see what year 2 looks like for him, to see a rookie take on that sort of usage rate, like what he ends up looking like down the line, how much he ends up playing the 5 in a couple of years when he adds a little bit more strength. I think I'm really excited to see what the future holds for him. But for DFS, it's not going to hold shit on DraftKings.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Wild stuff. So we go to Cleveland and Brooklyn, another game that is tough to stomach. Cleveland Cavaliers are 2.5-point favorites in Brooklyn, 219 total. That's basically tied for the low total here. There's one thing that really stands out for Cleveland, and that is going to be Evan Mobley. 6,300 power forward center, no Jared Allen today. He is projected for 43% ownership, and I don't see anything really wrong with that.
Yep. Mobley looks like a very strong play to me. Really nice price tag, dual position eligibility with the power forward center stuff. He'll be in about half my lineups tonight, and which will be more than the field, which I'm actually happy with, because I do think this spot for him, he's been about a 1.13 fantasy point per minute guy in court time without Jared Allen and also Kevin Love. So that's something for Mobley where got expect him to have probably his highest rebound rate in the situation. I think that looks good. And I think Garland also looks pretty good too. Like, not a bad price tag on him. The Q tag, I think, heading in tonight maybe makes his ownership a little bit lower. We know he's got the real ceiling there. I always hate playing him with Donovan Mitchell just because we know Mitchell can easily hog all the possessions and it becomes a weird spot for Garland. But he's been good enough now for a year where I think Garland, Mobley, two of the core plays for me on the night.
Yeah, if I were going to anybody else, it would be Garland. Just needs to be on the floor. That 7K price tag looks pretty good. 14% owned as well. So he is someone that is getting a little bit of love. I don't mind it in any way. I think the spot is pretty decent here against Brooklyn too. Maybe Donovan Mitchell just wants to soak up all of the shots, unfortunately. That could be your only downside. Very curious to see what the starting lineup ends up being here. I think it's LaMelo Ball could be limited to around 30 minutes per Steve Clifford.
Okay. Yeah, so I would take him out of the pool then, I would think, pretty much.
I doubt I'd be getting to them at that price at that point, but just wanted to read that off. It just popped up on my watch. I don't know who the fifth starter is going to be. If they're going to start a random center like Damian Jones or some other random idiot like Tristan Thompson, do they go to a Strus and LeVert 3-4 combo because it's Brooklyn? Does George Niang get the start, who is like kind of the only natural 4 that is here? Not sure what they're going to do.
think the social media people who follow the practice jerseys and the starter jersey thing, which I don't know, has this always been a thing? Because I feel like I don't remember hearing about this until now, that people are talking about the starter jerseys in practice. But Okoro apparently was a starter jersey guy for Cleveland, but Levert and who was the other one? Levert and Yang were not. Yeah.
Who is the 4 in that scenario then?
I guess it'd be Okoro and Strus playing.
I think Okoro is like 6'3" or something.
They played him at the 3. I mean, I agree. Like, I'm not saying. I just know that's what I saw on social media. I don't want to play him anyway, but I do think it could be Okoro being there, and Okoro and Strus, like small 4s, but you can get away with it against this version, I guess.
Yeah, I think they can. I just like, if you bring in, what's weird to me is if you bring in George Niang on purpose and Jared Allen's just not around, just start George Niang at the 4.
Yeah. I mean, it's at least a stretch 4 who can do something different. So yeah, I would agree. But Okoro can do nothing, and he can be out there and look the part, if nothing else.
Yeah. The key part to all of this is it doesn't matter who's starting. You're not playing these people.
Yeah, they missed Dean Wade. That's the biggest
thing. That's the first time that sentence has ever been spoken. Detroit Pistons. Nope. Brooklyn Nets. I did it again. God damn.
You're too excited.
I moved the game list from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, and I've never had it there before, and it is just, I am losing it.
Things like that'll throw you off. Like, people don't realize, I don't ever want to complain about these jobs. We're not in the coal mine exactly, but little things where it's like, oh, my screen's slightly off to the, like, oh no, I can't focus. I can't function.
I've been reading it off the screen like this for 5 years.
Get used to it.
Yeah. Brooklyn Nets. Weird team. Highest owned guys are Nick Claxton and Din Shitty. Din Shitty's 10% on FanDuel. Those guys are both 8% on DK. Not a lot of love coming in here. Add Claxton to that center list, but I do not expect to get to anything from Brooklyn. But if I did, I would not be surprised if Ben Simmons was the dude that went crazy. Yeah, I'm saying it right now. I'm not playing him. I promise you that. But if he's healthy, I'm anxious to see what he's got in his back pocket.
Yeah, I want to get a little more Ben Simmons, and I did juice the projections a little bit, or at least the rates a little bit, to get him closer to being playable, but the Sims still did not put me there, unfortunately, with his projection being what it is. 29 fantasy point projection from Stochastic. I think Dinwiddie, and I don't know when Dinwiddie became Din Shitty for you. I must have missed that meme at some point. I think he's an okay play tonight. I'm getting 15%. I don't feel awful about it. I feel like if Simmons doesn't get there, Dinwiddie probably does the same thing he does last year, but maybe they cannibalize each other a little bit. That's probably the risk point. But Dinwiddie's an okay play with 2-position eligibility.
Oh, I don't have any problem with Dinwiddie. I can't help but quote Kyle Kuzma.
Oh, okay.
Do you not remember that?
No, I forgot that one.
Oh, Kuzma went on a Twitter tirade and called him Din Shitty after he got shipped out of Washington.
Oh, well, that's hurtful. Dinwiddie's like, I don't know. Dinwiddie thought he was a little too good for a while there, where he's trying to sell like the Bitcoins that were shares of his career or whatever. Like, I think he got a little bit outside of pocket with that, but he's been a solid point guard. He's like an elevated Ish Smith, fancy Ish Smith. I'll take it.
Yeah, you hunt that down. It was fun. Kuz was on one. Good stuff. But yeah, otherwise, like, there's not a lot here for Brooklyn today.
Yeah, pace down spot. Cleveland, not the same defense without Allen out there for sure, but still the total certainly didn't move in a direction that's like Allen's a big part of this. So hard to expect Brooklyn to get there. But another team I'm curious to see. Like, I think Bridges, another year of improvement. Simmons maybe being healthy, looking like himself in the preseason. There's hope for the Nets. They could be a playoff team, I think.
The Detroit Pistons cannot be a playoff team. 8.5-point dogs in Miami, 219 total. Highest owned guy on the DraftKings side is 5% owned Jalen Duren, which should really point out what this looks like. Cade Cunningham on FanDuel, very viable at 7,500. He is the high owned guy. Cade Cunningham on DraftKings at 9K, slightly less viable. I basically don't see a single situation where I would end up with a Piston on DraftKings.
Jalen Duren is okay. I think the cheaper version of the centers we've talked about, under 5K, sure. Capable of putting up a double-double. Like, I think he is a perfectly okay player. But I'm with you on Cade. Like, Cade is a worse version of what we talked about with Paolo Banchero, where it's just, I don't know how he gets there. I know he has in the past occasionally, but Jaden Ivey being in the mix, Thompson being in the mix now, like, there's enough guys who could take some possessions away where it's hard to believe that Cade's going to reach like that theoretical Luka potentially had, that he was drafted like he could do. I don't know I was going to reach that in Detroit with how they play and the guys that they have that are just, gobbling possessions away that he needs to develop.
I'm interested to watch this team if they're healthy, because I just want to see Asar Thompson. I want to see Cade Cunningham be healthy, but this fascination with all of these centers is really not ideal team building. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why they gave Marvin Bagley that deal. I don't mind the acquisition of James Wiseman, but it's real like I don't know what the point of it is at that point. This is a weird team.
Yeah, it's like an asset play for an asset that nobody wanted anyway. So why are you doing the asset play and then also not playing the asset to have it materialize any value? So I agree. Detroit's like a weird team and hard to imagine Cade, whose upside would come from like scoring a lot, getting rebounds. Like there's now enough guys who can take rebounds away. It's just a strange, poorly constructed team.
Well, we go to Miami. Time for everybody to just yell at me that I'm some sort of Heat hater on purpose. 10% ownership coming into Tyler Hero is the highest owned guy for the Heat, 11% on the FanDuel side. And if I'm going to anybody, it is, I don't want to say definitely Tyler Hero, but point guard, shooting guard, 6,300. I obviously would not have any issue at all rostering a $7,900 BAM against Detroit. I just don't think that any one center like this is going to be any sort of priority today, but Bam is just actually talented. So don't feel bad about going there if you like that matchup. But I think Tyler Hero is the best on paper play from Miami.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Tyler Hero projected for about 10% ownership by Stochastic. I'm getting 15. Pretty good 33% boom rate for Tyler Hero. So you could make the case that maybe it should even be a little bit higher than that. But I think the price tag works for him. Again, dual position eligibility for him. Play both backcourt spots. That's a positive. And Butler and Adebayo, I think, perfectly fine plays as well, though not guys I would get more than 5% of. But the kind of plays that you get where they're not projected terribly well, but we know they have the 50 fantasy point ceiling, maybe 60 in Jimmy's world sometimes. Those are why I think those guys make some amount of sense. But Hero is just the one where the price works. The price fits a lot of other guys. And I think he's actually borderline a priority.
And for here, I don't generally care about narratives or anything like that. But Tyler Hero just spent the entire past 5 months being told he was going to get traded and wasn't worth dog shit in a Damian Lillard trade. Maybe he cares, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just happy to be a millionaire and none of it matters and he doesn't listen to it. But if he's listening to it, you got to figure that as at least some sort. It would be motivation to me if I wanted to be motivated. He got shit on for months in the media.
I mean, Heat culture would be to get mad about this. I believe we can all say Heat culture would be to get really worked up about it. They put out a big statement, give an interview with a snarky quote after. And then if he can get Jimmy Butler's hair that one day, the emo hair, I'm down for that too.
And, I don't think that Tyler Hero is a great guy to have in the playoffs. I think his defensive limitations are a problem when you get into further rounds. But in the regular season, some guy that can have 25 to 28% usage, shoot league average, true shooting, solid 3-point shooter, create his own shots. Like he's good in the regular season. He's a really nice offensive player. He's a $20+ million a year dude for real, no matter what he's getting paid. So I might not like him in a short series, but I love him in the regular season against the Pistons.
Yeah, I'd love to see him and Jordan Poole going head to head. Just two guys shooting 50 times, 20 for 50.
So many of those dudes. Anthony Simons got that bag in the same offseason. There's somebody else that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head that I got one that year too. Like 4 dudes signed that same shoot first, undersized guard deal.
Duncan Robinson he made the path for all of them, and then they all walked it.
Good for him, dude. He got the bag when he needed it, man. I loved that deal when he got it, and then he just had the shittiest of all shitty years.
Yeah, he got somehow infinitely slower too. Just like everything with him went south. But it's what happens when you're eating that good food, that multi-million-dollar contract.
Well, if you want to eat that good food and get a little bit more of the money, sign up at Bet365. Link in the description. They are the sponsor of this show. I got 2 separate deals for you. And if you are in Kentucky, you better take advantage of this one quick because I think it's going away. If you're not in Kentucky, if you are in Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Iowa, or Colorado, listen to me. Sports betting, click the link, sign up at Bet365, bet $5, get $150. If you are in Kentucky, bet $1, get $365. Think about what I'm saying. If you could just hand someone $1 and they hand you back $365, there would be a line for miles in Kentucky. That's not the case right now. But you guys can do that digitally. You don't even have to get in line. Just put the $1 into Bet365 and get $365. Got to be 21 years or older in all of the states except for Kentucky. You only got to be 18 there, which really is hilarious. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Is it money time?
Does it have to be? It can be. I'll put.
I saw it in chat.
No, it's fine. I'll even swap the hats today. I won't put the hat on the hat. Yes, it's money time, guys. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Look, the neon lights behind me. Yeah, there we go. We're making it rain. If only I had money to throw in the air or shoot in the air like Pac-Man Jones, I'd be crushing it.
Oh, Pac-Man Jones. Great guy.
Yeah, he's a known great guy, Pac-Man Jones. Great nickname. Nothing else. If not a great guy.
Do you know why? Deeper Dive is not the time for those kinds of jokes. I'm going to sit on this one. Let's go to game number 7.
I didn't know you were capable of that anymore.
Yeah, I am. Look, we learned a lot of lessons back in the day, you and I.
The people of Flint appreciate that. Appreciate your growth as a human.
It would have been really funny if the Pistons were up next. Yeah. The one when we get the message from Tom where it was just like, can we not talk about porn for 15 minutes?
Great engagement, though, in the early days of the Osmo Stochastic YouTube channel.
We're both just like,
finally get off.
Pretty obvious. Pretty obvious that we shouldn't have done that. Oh, man. Minnesota Timberwolves, 1-point dogs in Toronto, 221 total. Highest owned guy on the Minnesota Timberwolves on DraftKings is 2% owned, Karl Anthony Towns. The highest owned guy on the FanDuel side is 8% owned, Slow-Mo. There's one guy on Minnesota that can be very interesting that is pulling no ownership. I don't know what to make of it right now, but it's possible Nickeil Alexander-Walker starts at the flat 3K. He's a really interesting value play. I just don't know how much he matters on a 12-game slate.
Yeah, with the positions too, I'd worry about that a little bit, but I am seeing him as a decent value with the current minutes projection of 19.5 minutes that Stochastic has. So if he got a little bit more than that, great. I think that would certainly be another value play, certainly a much lower owned lever to get to than an Obi Toppin, even though Obi Toppin probably in a better situation as a rebounder, a guy that's going to do a little bit more. Besides that, yeah, nothing on this team looks that good. Ant can always put up the days that make it painful, but when he's priced at 9,600, I don't know how you pay for that price tag to be there on the days where he might go off. So in this situation, just nothing to love, I think, on Minnesota. But again, it's just Anthony Edwards I always worry about because whenever you don't own him, that's when he goes for 70.
I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is going to start today. But even still, he'll be like another version. Like, it's interesting to think Obi Toppin's going to be a better per minute guy. But if Nickeil Alexander-Walker is starting, like, he should be getting some sort of amount of ownership. I just don't know if he's going to be able to accomplish enough out on the floor with Minnesota being at full strength. So, and on a day like today, you probably need 35 to 40 out of every single spot in your lineup to really feel good. And I just don't know if Nickeil Alexander-Walker can get there without him playing 30 minutes.
Yeah, he would need like Conley out or something to have a shot to get there with those guys being in the mix.
On a different day, if this is just like a 6-gamer on a random Wednesday in the middle of the season, I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker ends up having like a ton of ownership in this scenario, and it's just not for today.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Colton Sousley? We're going to go Colton Sousley. Tuned in yesterday. Thanks for the super chat, by the way. Tuned in yesterday and was able to win $300 on a $2 single entry. You guys are the GOATs. That's the way to do it, man. That's the stuff we love to see.
That's clapped at the same time.
You can now enter that same contest 150 times if you want to.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same math that all the top players need. You need to bank, one a season, one a month, depending on how much you're putting out there. So you're covered now. So keep it paying forward.
I like seeing that, man. So congratulations. Shout out Colton. And then it's possible if the other starter is not Nickeil Alexander-Walker, if it is Kyle Anderson, I'm not all that interested at 5,700 or 5,300, but he's just another guy that is completely viable to roster. Just uninteresting, I guess.
Yeah, the projection doesn't look that great with 25 minutes from Stochastic, so pop on a couple more as a starter. I don't know what that does for you.
On the Toronto side, they're trying to figure out what life will look like after Nick Nurse and Fred VanVleet, and it looks pretty bleak from an ownership standpoint. 5% to Scotty Barnes is the high number. Dennis Schroeder getting a little bit of love on FanDuel at 17%, so I have no problem going that direction. If I were going anywhere, it would be Scotty Barnes, and feel free to add Jake Puddle to the list of centers that are available to be rostered today. But I think Scotty Barnes, point guard, small forward, 6,700, he would be the guy that I was going to get to from Toronto.
Yeah, I would get a little more Pirtle, I think, right now. Gonna have
Sure.
maybe 2x the field of them, it looks like, compared to the 3.7% ownership. So again, not a big stand, but still relative to that much ownership, we'll have double the field. And then Barnes, a little bit more than the field as well. So I'm with you. Those two guys I think stand out. And Anunoby, don't hate the projection or the price tag, but his ceiling I think is pretty elusive to find.
Mm-hmm.
And Schroeder, like, is Schroeder going to be better than he seems? I don't know. Probably not. But if he does play a fractional amount of a Fred VanVleet role, he's probably a bit underpriced. So I imagine I'll get a couple shares of him amidst my portfolio, but nothing, nothing where I'm planning a flag for him or anything.
Okie doke. The Oklahoma City Thunder are in Chicago, 2.5-point dogs for OKC. Bums me out. Love OKC. They're my Western Conference Magic this season. Can't wait to watch them. 4% owned Josh Giddey, though, is the high mark on DraftKings. Apparently, I can wait to roster them. 11% owned Jalen Williams on FanDuel is the only guy that anybody is getting to. He is 6,100. If you want to roster Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, by all means, pay up for him. He is exceptional. I don't mind Giddey, but he's a little pricey in my eyes. I just don't expect to have them, but I want to watch them because I'm excited for Chet.
Yeah, I'll get like a share or two of Giddey and Holmgren. Nothing else here stands out. The prices are brutal. Like over 10K for Shea in the situation where Holmgren's coming in, you got to expect him to have 20. I mean, I would think 25% usage, but maybe 20 to 25. Holmgren, I think, is an interesting player to watch. He projects better than Wembanyama tonight. I know we're not there yet, but I think people are going to be really excited to play Wembanyama and probably not excited to play Chet. But Chet, more reasonable salary and a higher projection. But what does that matter? Because these guys are still not actually close enough in projection to actually play.
Yeah, I don't really see these guys as super playable. I didn't have a ton of interest in Wemby when we looked at him earlier today. Don't really see that changing anytime soon. So it's just a tough spot. And it's tough because of the opposite side of this game. The Chicago Bulls are stupidly priced. Zach LaVine, for some strange reason, is 6,800 on DK and 34% owned. Nikola Vucevic is 6,900, 34% owned. DeMar DeRozan is 7,100, 24% owned. And Kobe White taking over the point guard mantle, 4,600. He's 10% owned. I don't know how you get away from this LaVine, Vooch, DeRozan trio, and White still looks good, but like LaVine and like Vooch is a center, so I get it. It's easier to slide in somebody else if you want to go ultra chalky and make that pivot. Zach LaVine is incredible today.
Yeah, LaVine looks good. I am getting more Vooch, I think, because of the amount of guys that are well projected in that slightly cheaper range. I think the Sims are pushing me to Vooch a little bit more, getting about 50% of him, and the field's projected to be 34%. But I agree, Vooch and LaVine, both really strong plays. DeRozan, I would put a tier behind in terms of the ownership I'm expecting to get, but I think he looks good. And Kobe White, even, I don't want to get the 10% the field's going to have, but I'll have some Kobe White as a cheaper play who is kind of a pivot point to a Tyus Jones, who's going to be pretty chalky. But I'm with you. I think the Bulls were a strong play. Billy Donovan revenge game, right? We got a lot of things going. Everybody loves a coaching revenge game, right?
I didn't even think about that one. Yeah. He's been with Chicago for a while now.
Yeah. He's this team is like such an odd team because it feels like every year they should blow it up and try again, but they just keep trying it out there. And fantasy wise, I think they're fun because it's always kind of hard to predict which one's going to have the outlier day, but any of them can. And I think tonight, like LaVine and Vooch, probably two of the stronger players in the slate.
I don't expect DeMar DeRozan to be a Bull by the end of this season.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like he barely made it out of the offseason still being a Bull. So I would agree with that. And if that's the case, LaVine and Vooch tonight in particular, probably underpriced by $1,000 if like there were no DeMar in the mix.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. By at least I know LaVine should be like 8,800 if there's no DeMar DeRozan. Wait, just keep an eye on Zach LaVine's price and understand that it's going to be like $1,000 more in 2 games. And this is the time to get here. Get the value now. 2,100 people, 300 and something likes. We got to get up to 500 before we turn this one over to live before lock. So if you are one of the 2,100 people that have not hit the like button yet, hit it now. What are you waiting for? It helps us out. Doesn't cost you a thing. Midwest Madden Hub with the super chat. You guys won me money yesterday. Thanks. You're welcome.
I love a good Midwest Madden hub. That's the only hub I look for my Madden-based content.
I miss Madden. I'm so excited for NCAA football to come back. Whew.
I am too. Do you ever watch the YouTube channels, people that use a hacked? We don't have time for this. There's like a hacked NCAA football that people have been updating in the background.
2014, the 2014 game.
Yeah, called like NCAA football revamped. And it's one of the channels that I watch on YouTube is always like doing different things there. And I'm like, I miss that road to glory mode and just the Got a great game.
I mean, I've wasted thousands of hours in that series. I want it back. So I don't watch college football because of it. If I don't have it, like it's the only way I ever knew everybody that was going to be any good. It's the only way I was able to play with former Stochastic contributor AB Alex Brown.
That's good. I mean, look, you got to get him in somewhere. I guess he was probably in a Madden game at some point, you would think, right?
I mean, he was like a 9-year Chicago Bear, unless he didn't sign over some paperwork with the Players Association.
Yeah, I was going to say, so like you could have played with him in Madden too.
Well, yeah, but I was such a big NCAA guy, and I was a Florida guy when I played the game, so I played with AB for years. Who knew I was going to get to talk to him?
Currently a bigger NCAA guy than an AB guy. Basically, you're not supporting him in Madden, just queuing up some D-line games.
I didn't play as much Madden. I used to simulate Madden a lot. I didn't play Madden as much.
Oh, the good old Madden Sims.
Oh,
the sister to the NBA 2K Sims back in our glorious pandemic days.
God, what a great time. The pandemic, not the Sims. Anything else for the Bulls other than these guys are very, very clearly inner circle cash type plays?
Yeah, no, I think mostly good chalk. I'll have more Vooch than Levine, but I think that's, your mileage may vary. If you went the other way, I wouldn't hit you for it.
And on the FanDuel side, Kobe White is the chalk, 27% owned at 4,900.
Sweet. Good for them. Good for FanDuel. Have fun.
All righty. The New Orleans Pelicans are in basically a coin flip game against the Memphis Grizzlies, 224 total here. That is not the Pelicans, but that is, now that I hit the button. Only one guy pulling double digits of ownership, and that is across DraftKings and FanDuel. That would be one Brandon Ingram, 7,700, 18% owned, shooting guard, small forward on DK. I think he stands out as a really nice value, and positionally it looks good. I don't have much else here from the Pels. If you want to roster Zion because he's healthy, I get it.
Yeah, I think Zion, the price is just so egregious. Like, I have a better projection for Ingram than Zion. Stochastic is a better projection for Ingram than Zion. But Zion Williamson is 2K more than Ingram. So that makes it pretty tough to justify going to Zion. But tournament theory is certainly there because Ingram looks like a good value play. I think I'll have him in about 19% of my lineups. So I'll be basically with the field based on the sim exposures I got before the show. And no issue with that. A little bit of taste to CJ McCollum and Jonas Valanciunas as well. But I think it's really Ingram or bust in this game based on just, the pure projection level.
Yeah, the Zion price relative to his projection is preposterous. The Ingram price is just dumb. Their points props for today, they're both at 24.5. Zion has a rebound prop, one ahead of Ingram, 6.5 to 5.5, but Ingram is juiced to the over. Zion is neutral. And then the assist prop is 5.5 to the over for Ingram, 3.5 to the over for Zion. I mean, you're getting essentially the same projection for $2,000 less.
Yeah, like I love Zion too, but I feel like Zion and Wemby are kind of and like these guys can go off, but like I feel like they're the IQ test for the slate where it's like, all right, are you going to play these guys tonight? Or are you going to let things settle a little bit when it makes a little more sense? I don't think it's a night to play Zion, but if he gets there, more power to you.
Mikey B hit us with his member chat. Member for 30 months. Wild, dude. Thanks for being around here, man. Triple J or Mobley in the power forward spot. DK single entry. I think it's Triple J, who we're about to talk about right now.
I'm going to have a little bit more Mobley, but both of them will be around 50% for me. So I don't think you can go wrong.
Yeah, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there. I would not have any real preference. That's a coin flip decision. I'm leaning towards the ownership in that one and taking Jackson.
Yeah, that's fair.
Speaking of Jackson, 49% owned on DraftKings. That is the high water mark for the slate, not just for Memphis. You're also getting 41% ownership coming into Desmond Bane, $7,400 shooting guard, small forward. Marcus Smart's getting a little bit of love. Both of those guys that I just mentioned are also 30% owned on FanDuel. No Ja Morant. Dylan Brooks is gone. Brandon Clark is hurt. Steven Adams is hurt. If this game is competitive, and by all accounts it should be, considering the game is a pick'em, Bane and Jackson look incredible today.
Yeah, I'm with you. Highly owned plays, so you're going to be holding hands with a lot of the field on them, but They're going to be key parts of what I'm doing tonight. Both guys to me, 45% to 50% owned. And I think they're really strong plays, really nothing to debate. Bane, top contender for Josh today, which I was like, okay, I wonder how highly owned he's going to get. He is clearly a chalk play on the slate, but he's just not correctly priced. So I would say Bane to me more incorrectly priced than Jaren Jackson is, but both guys still clearly like very strong plays.
Yeah, it's just a great spot for these idiots. And I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped. Desmond, look, when Morant's not around and Burks isn't around, we've seen what Desmond Bane's usage rate does. Desmond Bane with the 24.5 point projection in the prop market, that's the same as Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, guys.
Yeah, and again, no Tyus Jones even. So like, is he going to maybe play a little more pure point? I guess Marcus Smart could do some of that too, but I think Bane is on a good spot and potentially could be an even stronger player this year, just because who knows how long they're not going to have Ja Morant for, and clearly they have invested a lot of possessions in him to get him where he needs to be.
Marcus Smart, 5,800, tickle your fancy at all?
I think he's an interesting play if you don't get to Bane, especially, but I'll have 10% Marcus Smart. So a little bit under the field, but still want to have some exposure there. Tillman as well, same thing compared to Jaren Jackson. I think these two guys are ones where if Bane doesn't hit, it's probably because Marcus Smart hogged the ball a little bit too much. Maybe got a little shot happy as he did sometimes in Boston. That could certainly happen. Tillman maybe grabs a few more rebounds. Jaren Jackson, foul trouble. Certainly not the craziest thing to expect, given that he might be defending Zion a portion of the time. So I think those are the two ways to get to those guys. Like you're doing that, hitting Marcus Smart and Tillman to try to get some leverage. I think mostly on the other guys, but they're okay plays on their face too. Like I think they project pretty well, just not as well as Bane and Jackson do.
Rockets starting lineup is exactly what everybody would have thought, so I don't even need to go over that. Do you have anything else you want to touch on from Memphis? We got about 15 minutes to go before we bounce on out of here. 3 more games to touch on.
Nothing really jumping out too much, I think, on the Memphis side. I really think it is a Bane or Jackson situation, but yeah, like Smart and Tillman look good. It's just not a lot of bodies who are going to really do things on the court. So wouldn't shock me to see like a real stealing game come from somebody here that like you need to have to win this slate.
There's a big body. And that big body is David Roddy.
Is that his nickname?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, big body David Roddy.
There's an NXT guy who's like goes by Big Body, but was Javier or something, and he's just like a big
that would
body
require
thing.
me to watch NXT.
I know you watch some of the stuff. I thought maybe NXT.
A-dubs, baby. A-dub.
Hey, NXT outdrew him. I mean, I'm only care about the ratings. I don't care about the enjoyment of the product.
Shocked that they were able to outdraw them with The Undertaker and Cena and fucking Hulk Hogan and everybody else they brought out, Stone Cold, The Rock.
Yeah, no, look,
amazing.
You build stars. That's what happens.
Incredible. Sacramento Kings, probably my least favorite team in basketball. 1.5 point favorites in Utah, 234 total. Highest owned guy for the Kings, 8% to De'Aaron Fox at 8,700. Really nice price tag for De'Aaron Fox. Hate the matchup, but that price tag is probably a little low. No ownership coming in anywhere else. 15% though coming into Fox on FanDuel. I like that. 11% coming into Malik Monk. That seems like a tough sell on a slate like today. What do you want to do here with Sacramento going up against the Jazz?
I want to understand why you don't enjoy a very likable Kings team, first of all. But I think besides that, not really play anybody. Fox a little bit. I think projection-wise, they don't look good. But like they're a fun team. I thought they were a feel-good story of last year. And you don't like them?
Well, no. They got out over their skis a bit. They had no health issues whatsoever, which helped them tremendously to be a good regular season team. And if you have Domantas Sabonis as your starting center, you're going to be a bad defense, which was shown last year. And that's going to be really problematic in the playoffs. The Kings are set up to now make the playoffs, which is great for them, considering they didn't do it for like 30 years or whatever it was. But they need to, like, they're just as presently constituted. There's no ceiling to this team.
That's fair. I guess I just think, they're fun in fantasy, and I support that. Like they're a fun team that defensively too going to give you some good performances going against them. Like I'll have good amount of Jazz tonight. Like the implied total is as high as it is because of what the Kings do and don't do. So I support the Kings, but I agree. Like they're not a champion. Like they can't win a championship ever. Right? Like I don't know what they're going to do to accomplish that.
Not even close.
Yeah.
I hate false confidence. And the Kings were a team that bred false confidence into their fandom. So I don't like it.
That's every fan though. If you're rooting for the jerseys, you're overconfident about your team, or you're, East Coast and neurotic about your team. But either way, I don't think that's uncommon to them. I'm happy for the
Yeah,
beam.
I hate those kinds of people. I hate those people.
That's every sports fan.
I hate fans. I know. I hate sports fans.
It's like
they're terrible people.
Of the people watching us right now. They're all like, yeah, my team's really great.
And yeah, like, I hate those people. I take the fandom out of it. Utah Jazz have a very chalky player today. So many options of who it could be. Could it be Lauri Markkanen? Could it be the new Jazz player John Collins? Colin Sexton is back and healthy again. Walker Kessler was a revelation defensively. Oh no, it's Talen Horton-Tucker at 4,500 pulling 45% ownership today. Also 38% owned on FanDuel, where he's also $1,000 more expensive than that. Are you riding the THT train?
I am riding the train tonight. And in fact, enthusiastically so, currently projected to have 67% ownership of Talen Horton-Tucker. I've always liked the guy. I know he's kicked me in the nuts in similar spots before where he comes off the bench and then it's like, oh, he's not really effective in his couple runs. But it seems like he's locked into getting pretty good minutes here. 30.5 minute projection from Stochastic. He's been over a 1 fantasy point per minute guy. Contributes in every category. Seems like he's perpetually due to shoot better, even though at a certain point, this might just be who he is, shooting 51% true shooting. But I like Horton-Tucker here. And Kessler looks good too, but Horton-Tucker is probably a player that will define my slate, much like many of the people. It's going to be, I'm swallowing a lot of chalk here tonight, but prove to me you know the right plays. That's what I'm telling the field, and hopefully that'll be the case.
I hate this today. I hate it so much. Of all the dudes that I thought were going to be chalk today, I never would have landed on Talen Horton-Tucker when I woke up this morning.
People just love the guy. Ever since he was a Laker, I feel like it's one of those things. He just carries it with him from place. I mean, not place to place. He's only been one stop since then, but he just got on the radar with that. And since then, we all think he's good. And fantasy wise, like, he is good. Almost a 30% assist rate for a wing player is like pretty impressive, especially with all the ball hogs on this team.
I know you're looking right now, but I'm hoping you can't see it. So look at the camera. Do you know how old he is?
Oh, he's got to be 26, 27.
He is 22.
Really?
Yeah.
He looks like he's 26 or 20. He looks like he's our age, basically.
November 25th, 2000.
Wow. So you're telling me he's got more of a ceiling and we should play more?
Yeah.
We haven't seen his apex yet.
Nuts. It's
That's
nuts.
Crazy. He's good then. He's got better in my eyes now that he's not 26.
It's wild, dude. It's wild. David Porter, Josh is pissed he went light on Jokic yesterday. I'm not. I mean, like, in hindsight, yeah, I wish I rostered him. If I can go back to lock, I wouldn't change a single thing that I did. I would do it all again.
Yeah, what you did yesterday was what won people money on Monday and Monday Night Football, where everybody thinks that the Niners are going to crush. You play some Vikings, the Vikings get there. Everybody thinks Jokic is going to crush. You can't imagine not playing him. You don't play him. Like, that's kind of the nature of DFS, even though obviously when the guy puts up 70, then you have to go, well, fuck. But yeah, that's the way you play. That's the way you win.
I would do it again in a heartbeat. Yeah, 22 years old. I was really happy that you hadn't seen it.
No, I don't keep the ages. I don't want to know. I don't want to know if they're old and dusty or if they're young, sexy, vibrant men. I just want to.
Age ain't nothing but a number for you.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to dock them or not. I don't want to know their age.
Do you want Walker Kessler at all? 12% owned.
Yeah, I think Walker Kessler looks pretty good to me. Imagine I'll have about 20% of him. Good player. Kind of worry about Collins maybe upsetting his rates a little bit from last year, but Collins, it feels like his projections are pretty gross. His minutes projection. Why did they trade for him if they're going to play him 26 minutes and he's not going to do anything would be the question I would have. But Kessler just was clearly a good center last year. No issue going back to him again this year.
The Dallas Mavericks are 4-point favorites in San Antonio, 231 total. For the Mavs, there is basically one option here, maybe a 1B in Kyrie Irving, but Luka is 13% owned. He's 11K on DK, but because of the amount of value that we have, he's not cost prohibitive, and he's Luka Doncic facing off against the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, the ownership looks good. I think Luka, we know the slate breaking upside, a lot of value to go to. I'll be with the field. Can't imagine jamming in more than that, but questionable tag too. Maybe keeps the ownership down. And Josh, I don't think we've done a show since I've had my son Luka, but my son's named Luka. So how could I not play Luka on the first game of the slate, or first slate of the year rather?
You got to bink with him.
That'd be nice.
Yeah,
I agree.
you just got 100. You got to lock button every day and eat the losses until you get it, and then I don't know. Then it's just fun.
Well, the great irony is like my Luka's existence makes it impossible for me to do NBA DFS with any regularity because that's when you do kid stuff. Laffy and Josh and I were talking about that earlier. And it's like, that's the way it goes. So it is a great paradox here of my Luka fandom, but another good year for him. And this team, I think they've set this team up really fun where it's just going to be Kyrie and Luka shooting and that's it. And all the other guys just going to run around with their arms up. And that's going to be how the team plays.
Yeah. To me, no one else on this team is playable. Kyrie at 10-2 is just too big of a price tag.
Grant Williams, maybe as like a flyer, multi-position eligibility. I don't know, but not a lot. I'm getting 3% Grant Williams. I'm defending it now.
All right. Then we go to the opposite side. The debut of Wemby. He is unowned. Basically, 8,500, way too expensive. I don't have much interest, but I hope he goes crazy. It'll be fun to watch. The only guy getting any ownership really from San Antonio is point guard Jeremy Sohan, point guard small forward eligible, 4,700. I'm not all that enamored with San Antonio today. I love the idea of wanting to play Wemby. I just don't think that it's a thing for today.
Yeah, I love the concept of Wemby. I think he's an interesting player. I'm very excited to see him play. Every player I create in NBA 2K looks vaguely like him and plays like I imagine he'll play. That said, I don't see how you could play him tonight. And if anybody's going to play him at any rate, we have projected 0.1% ownership. If he gets to 10%, I think that's just dumb ownership. That's people rooting for the laundry, rooting for the NBA draft pick, trying to get the trendy thing. The price tag just doesn't make that so he's a guy you'd play. No. But I agree. I think that Collins kind of interesting. Sochan less interesting to me. Like there are other guys playing the Spurs. Unfortunately, it's not Wembanyama tonight. And if he goes off, great. Yeah,
I'd love to see it. 7,700 on FanDuel, I think, is much more viable, especially because of the 3-point stocks. Like there's going to be days where he blocked 7 shots. Like being a rookie isn't going to stop him from sending people. And I think that's really important on the FanDuel end. So I wouldn't mind going there. Zach Collins, by the way, 18% owned on FanDuel if you're interested.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's surprising coming off the, questionable there, but he went through shootouts or shoot around rather. So he's probably going to play, and Collins, great per minute producer, but maybe hurt a little bit by Wembanyama in a way that he might not be the same guy he's been historically in terms of the per minute stuff.
Yeah. I can't wait to watch him, though. He's going to be a highlight reel. Some of the things that he's going to end up doing just defensively is going to be fascinating.
Well, I think especially tonight, too. It's like you're going to have the Luka and Kyrie open shot at some point where he's either going to come close to getting it or he's going to get it. And it'll be, like that shot that Wiggins had that's just soaring.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's fun to watch, but it's fantasy wise. It's just if he were 6K, I would take the Flyers, but not at 80.
Yeah, 8,500 is just a little bit too healthy.
Yeah.
Like there are comparable projections on Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson. Both of these guys are in the mid 6s.
Yeah, I agree. And Keldon too, working on his game, apparently trying to show off that he can actually handle the ball and get to the rim now. So Keldon might be a little bit of a usage boy this year just because he's going to stop him.
All right, final game. Real late night hammer, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. Portland Trailblazers, 9-point underdogs in Los Angeles. Highest owned Blazer on either site is 4% to either Anthony Simons or DeAndre Ayton. I'd love to play DeAndre Ayton today, but again, there's a million centers, so it's hard for anybody to be a priority. I see nothing here for Portland.
Yeah, I'm getting under 5% of Simons and Ayton. Ayton, this is his shot. This is his team, basically, though he's got Scoot coming in. Obviously, Simons has the big deal, so it's not really his team. But if you were going to put it down, like now's the time to do it. So I don't mind getting a little bit of him, but I can't imagine getting much more than the Fields. 4%, I'll have 5. Like that's about it for me.
Yeah. I don't like Simon. If I'm going anywhere, it's probably Simons. Maybe Scoot for 5,800. Scoot's points prop is 14. His assist prop is 5.5, juice to the under. Like the problem for Portland is that they suck.
Yeah, I mean, Scoot's a great assist guy, so he might make that offense look a little better just by the inertia of his playmaking.
Somebody's got to make the shot. That's the issue.
Simons can shoot if you give him space. He's still a good true shooter. Like he was good the last couple of years.
I think the Clippers know that. They just don't have to give him space. They'll give Matisse Thybulle all the space he wants. He can work out. He can build a studio apartment.
Well, Scoot's going to be setting things up.
It's going to be scooting all around. I'm excited to watch Scoot too, but I will not see a single second of this game.
No, I'm going to be very sleepy. But though I tried that last night and was like, I still ended up watching the whole game. I was like, why? I watched this whole game to lose $200. Why did I do this?
I went to bed after the first quarter.
That's a reasonable and smart approach for a man who does a show at 6 a.m. in the morning.
You know me, always smart. Clippers closing it out. And there's no ownership to be found here on DraftKings or FanDuel except for one player. Of course it is. Russell Westbrook, 6,500, 23% owned. Is it a Russ day for you?
I'll have a little bit less in the field of Russ, but yeah, if you projected for 23% ownership on DraftKings, I'm projecting to have 20 right now. Russ, we know, can fill up a box score, rejuvenated by being on the Clippers. I don't know. I don't love him as a player, but this is really cheap for Russ. Don't know what he can do on a team where his two teammates who do similar things are priced over 9K. I would have Russ having a very similar projection to both Paul George and Kawhi. So Russ, I think, looks okay. And I'll say Zubac added to the center list, but a little bit less appealing than all the other centers we've talked about throughout the course of the show.
I think Russ looks pretty good. The 14.5 point prop is surprising to see, but when you start thinking about Kawhi and Paul George, he's not exactly the primary option here. But I don't think the ownership is all that crazy. Looks good at point guard. There's nothing else here for me. I definitely don't want Kawhi. I don't want Paul George at 9,500. If they show up, great, but like no priorities as pay up options. If I'm paying up, I want to just get Luka.
Also, Covington, I have to highlight too, because I think I'm getting him as a pivot point to Toppin. Power forward center eligibility. Obviously, prefer to play him a power forward, but getting him in 13% of lineups, ownership's at 1.5%. Obviously, I'm not saying Robert Covington's the play, but if he's one of the guys that could score a little.
Be aware of swapping off of that. I don't think he's going to start tonight. I think it's going to be Nick Batum. And if Robert Covington is not starting tonight, please don't play him.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna do heavy swappies. I'm excited because again, a 2-game slate, the late swap tool. I think unless you really need to swap, you don't have to. For a 12-game slate, though, I think you're really going to be behooved to keep optimizing, updating ownership, and going from there. So that's gonna be my process tonight for sure.
Anything else you want to add? We just went through an hour and 15 minutes to rip through 12 games.
No, delighted to be here. Excited for everybody to be a part of a new NBA season. Obviously, Stochastic doing great things. The tip-off promo code, so go check that out. But I'm happy to be here with Josh. Happy to be back on Friday doing it again. But it's a new season. NBA is a lot of fun. I've dedicated so much of my life to NFL this year. It's just nice to have the sport that I love back in, giving me a buffet of games tonight. And I think there's a lot of obvious plays. And I think for night one, I think just let the field tell you that they know the obvious plays. They might, but there's a lot of obvious chalk for good reason tonight because the pricings just don't work. So I think chalkier night than I would usually want for sure.
Fantasy Guru, I'm going to leave that question for the live before lock guys, but I'm not leaving right now. I feel like I'm watching Wolf of Wall Street. 2,700 people, 491 likes. I need to see that one roll up over 500 before Spags and I get out of here. So if you haven't hit that thumbs up yet, do it now. Sign up using the promo code TIPOFF to get 20% off. Shout out to Bet365. By the time I'm finished reading this, we're going to be over 500 likes. Good luck, everybody. Watch live before lock.
It is day 2 of the NBA season, and it's really the first real slate. Yesterday was fake. It was only a 2-game slate today. 12 games to break down. Eric and I will be going through our favorite plays on FanDuel, DraftKings. I've got my lineups built out, and there shouldn't be too much that changes as we approach lock today. I know we say that occasionally with NBA, and then shit ends up hitting the fan, but it's the first game of the season for most of these teams, so there shouldn't be too many players that are ruled out. We do have Luka listed as questionable. I'm not really taking that all that seriously. What I am taking very seriously, though, is you guys liking the video, subscribing to the YouTube channel. It helps us out a whole bunch, and we do appreciate it. And also, getting to hang out with my good friend Eric Lindquist here. If you guys want some free money, sign up at Bet365, because when you sign up and place a $5 bet, sign up using that link we have below, you get $150 in bonus bets for free. Or if you live in Kentucky, bet $1 and get $365 for free. And if you or anybody you know has a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. Eric, what's happening, man?
Not much. Congratulations, my guy. Right out of the get-go. First day. Goes out, gets the binky. Nice to get the binky very first day. Now we try to run it back. There's a 100K binky up for grabs, which is a little bit more attainable. Probably not going to be many dupes when we're talking about this slate, representative of what we had yesterday. Although we have some pretty pronounced chalk that does happen from time to time on large slates. So looking forward to this one, but wanted to lead it off with congrats, my guy.
Yeah, it's so we've got the new tools on the site, and what is a better way to advertise their effectiveness than winning the tournament on FanDuel on day one of the season and on a 2-game slate, where I typically don't love 2-game slates. I don't usually play them a whole bunch, felt obligated to because it was the first slate of the season. And whenever I'm on shows, I'm playing them anyway, but how much volume I play will often be dictated by how much I like the slate. But yesterday we had the new tools, first slate of the year. So I'm maxing out everything on FanDuel and DraftKings, and came in first in the big tournament on FanDuel, split with a few people. So it's not like I won all of the $200,000 to myself, but I'm not going to complain about 10K, and looking forward to running it back today. Hopefully I go back to back, and then back to back to back, and then back to back to back to back. And then nobody else other than me ever wins a tournament this year. I would appreciate that.
Okay. It's rude and selfish of you, but sure, go ahead and do that.
If you guys want to win a tournament this year, like myself and Eric and the tools we're going to be using here, sign up using the promo code TIPOFF. Everything that we have at Stokastic.com is now included under one package. And when you use that promo code TIPOFF, which is only going to be around for the first week of the season, you are going to get 20% off when you sign up using that link below in the promo code TIPOFF. And Eric, first thing I just want to ask you about is the injury to Luka, where he is listed as questionable. He's a little banged up. Are you like me, where you're just not really taking this all that seriously?
No, it's the very first game of the season. And contrary to what we saw with the Bradley Beal deal, where, I mean, come on, Suns, what are we even doing here? Contrary to that, Luka is somebody that from the get-go, you would have a pretty good idea that he wasn't playing basketball today. I would be shocked, absolutely floored, if we saw something happen where he wasn't out there. So I've just got him in. I think it's a little bit of much ado about nothing. So I think we're probably on the same page with that.
Jordan, I have a question for you. Of the super chats, which of them were answered on the last show, if any? Well, the Ace of Spade, too. I highly doubt they answered the DK Tiers question. Okay, cool. So we've got, I mean, my name was in the super chat, so they better not have answered. This one is for me, from Ace of Spade. We always like to answer his questions. But first, Fantasy Guru 76. Everybody's in Discord and has questions for us as we go, at me. And Eric and I'll be answering all those questions throughout the show. Fantasy Guru 76 has just got on the show best value power forward on FanDuel. What do we want to consider to be a value price point, Eric?
So unlike yesterday, where it was very easy to talk about both sites and I built out everything for the opening day as a 2-gamer, I'm only playing DraftKings tonight. So I want to just throw that out from the onset. But I did do some stuff over on FanDuel where I at least ran it, but I'm going to default to you for most FanDuel questions. So
yeah. So give me a price point where you think is fair to consider value. Like, there aren't that many great guys that are
sub 5,500.
Sub 55. Okay. If we're going sub 55, so the player I have the most exposure to that is at 5,500 or below is Jeremy Sokan, who is exactly $5,500. I've right around 10% of him. Going a little bit cheaper, I do have some exposure to Grant Williams. Powell is listed as questionable to play. The front court's kind of a mess for the Dallas Mavericks. And Grant Williams is somebody who could benefit from a couple extra minutes if Powell isn't able to play. And he's somebody who I do think is live to not end up playing. It's not going to be like if he's out, you have to go jam Grant Williams. But Grant Williams is somebody who I have 7% exposure to right now. And there are just not that many great cheap power forwards. So if you had a specific price point in mind, Fantasy Guru, I will say if it's $5,500, then I do like Jeremy Sochan. If it's got to be cheaper than that at $4,500, I like Grant Williams. So I hope that helps you build out your lineups there. And then the next super chat is from Ace of Spade. Ace of Spade is asking us for our favorite plays in DK tiers. Did you check out the tiers streets, Eric?
That I did do.
Okay. So I'm going to pull this up right now. I got logged out of our site.
I can go down the line really quickly. I already have it prepped if you wanted to know. Luka by a landslide in tier 1. Tier 2, it's interesting. Trae Young, Kyrie Irving. I think Kyrie Irving's going to fit in a lot better. San Antonio defensively, we'll see. I think these are going to still be up-tempo games, and obviously the total dictates that 230.5. So Trae Young, Kyrie Irving, pretty split. Still lean Trae Young there. Tier 3, looking at Donovan Mitchell by a landslide. Tier 4, Tyrese Halliburton quite a bit for me. I know De'Aaron Fox, Butler, two guys you could go to, but it's going to be Halliburton. Tier 5, I am going to go Paolo Banchero. Not going to be somebody I play on the DK slate. FanDuel, I did see his tag was a little bit more appealing, 75. But I think 75, is that what he is on FanDuel? Yeah, it was a better spot, I think, for FanDuel when I looked at that. And then Desmond Bane for sure in tier 6.
All right, so I was able to pull it up, and I think I agree with most of what you said, but I'm just going to go based off what I am looking at now and see if anything stands out that was different from what you had read off. But Luka, I agree with you pretty clearly in tier 1. Tier 2, I think Kyrie and Trae Young is very close. And LaMelo Ball is in this tier as well. I would have liked LaMelo like an hour ago, but now we found out about him potentially
30 minutes.
Limit tonight.
See, I think this sucks because I was going to have no LaMelo, and I was hoping that he was going to actually get clicked on a lot. And now you just don't do it. 30-minute cap.
Yeah, I have none of him on FanDuel, and I got to 2% of him on DraftKings. So like really, really low priority with LaMelo Ball. Anyway, tier 2, I would have had the answer of LaMelo Ball earlier in the day. Now I'm going to go with Trae Young. I do agree with you that like Kyrie is very live in this tier. I don't know that I'm thrilled about the idea of playing Kyrie and Luka together in lineups. So with that in mind, I'd rather go elsewhere in tier 2. I'll go with Trae Young. Tier 3, Donovan Mitchell for me. Tier 4, Tyrese Halliburton. Tier 5, there are a lot of live options in tier 5 that are very similar. I'm going to agree with you and go to Banchero, though. If it has to be somebody else, I would say Cat. And then in tier 6, Desmond Bane in the absence of Ja Morant.
Well done, sir.
We have Guitar Z-Man 247. Shout out to him. He gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. Thank you for supporting us. We do appreciate it. Hannah Banana, thanks for everything last year and on to another. And then a couple of $ sign emojis. Thank you, Hannah. And then Shikari Mfood says, favorite value plays per position on DraftKings. Yeah, we can get right to this. And
right to the nitty gritty.
Yeah. So value, let's say, is there are so many underpriced players on DraftKings today.
There are.
I don't know if this was intentional to where they're trying to make it soft. I think it's a little bit of two things. I think partly it's intentional to make it soft for the first big slate of the year. And I think part of it is just absolute fuck ups. Like we're going to talk about Obi Toppin a good amount. That's just a flat out misprice. Like there's no way that was intentional to open up any kind of salary here. No. But let's go favorite sub 5K value that you're getting the most to at each position on DK, Eric, starting with point guard.
Tyus Jones, not close.
Tyus Jones for me as well. How about shooting guard?
Desmond, well, you said sub 5K, so value. I'm not talking about who I have the most of. Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Okay, for me, it is Talen Horton-Tucker. Small forward, that would also be THT.
That would be THT for me there.
Let me see if there's somebody else that I would include.
But I'm still like a little bit, I mean, my God, the Sims tool. Whew, we got a lot of Talen Horton-Tucker in our lives right now.
Okay, so just for the purpose of answering these questions, I'm going to say Kobe White at shooting guard and Talen Horton-Tucker at small forward, just so I could get somebody else that I actually have a decent amount
Obi Toppin, we can move on to center.
Yeah, well, I think Obi Toppin warrants just a conversation, though, because the question with Obi Toppin is not, is he a good value play or not? The question is, how much of him do we want to play? If you're playing in cash games today on DraftKings, you're playing Obi Toppin. Just first button you click. You lock him in there. You don't even think twice about it. In tournaments, though, Eric, how much of him are you going to be getting to? He's very popular.
97%.
I have a 76.7% of Obi Toppin. So he is in 115 out of 150 lineups for me. He's my most exposed player on the entire slate. Earlier in the day, I thought there was a chance that I would lock him in. And the only reason that didn't end up happening is because there are so many good value plays on the slate. There was like other guys that I was working in as well. If anybody wants to lock in Toppin, I have zero issues with that whatsoever. I landed on 76.7%. It's still a lot of him.
Yeah, 96.8 for me. I had last night when I ran it 97.4. Like it's kind of like fluctuated around the exact same amount. I made 150 just screwing around last night and sent you a text where I was like, have you looked at the slate yet? And you're like, no.
Nope.
All the NAW and all the OB Toppin, it was disturbing.
So at center, the answer is also going to be Obi Toppin. Center is in absurd position.
Yeah, Jalen Duren for tournaments. By the way, I have 42% of a 4% owned Jalen Duren.
I'm trying to figure out like what I want to go with as my answer here at center, because there are, if I could build lineups that were position agnostic today and it was just salary, I think I might only play centers.
Yes, correct. There are infinity of them, but I'm taking the guy who's sub 5K that is inexplicably sub 5K, who I expect to play 30 minutes, and getting 30 minutes of a Jalen Duren seems like fun. And then I can figure out other things elsewhere, because otherwise I am so spread out at the rest of the position. It would appear, outside of Obi Toppin, of course, who has the center eligibility. But a lot of my lineups, as I'm just like scrolling through and looking, they have Toppin in a forward or power forward spot. And then I just have two centers everywhere. I think that's going to be kind of the prominent build.
The answer for me is Duren as well. I'll add in, he's not sub 5K, but he's right at 5K. I think Xavier Tillman, if you're looking for somebody who's going to be like contrarian at center, and by the way, Duren isn't all that popular either. I think Tillman's also somebody who makes sense there. There are 800 good center plays on DraftKings today. If you play a center today and he's not a good play, you've made a horrible error. Like you're playing somebody who's not in the rotation at that point.
You're not going to play Nick Richards on this slate. You're not trying to play like a backup center at 4K, trying to like spring value because of foul trouble. You're playing just like the dudes. You're playing anybody, and they're all underpriced. They're all way too cheap. I mean, it is going to be wild how much like Mark Williams gets mixed in. Miles Turner, I have a ton of. Vooch is the most popular dude up there with Toppin, with anybody else there at the top of the position. It's just an absurd position today.
Yeah, so we'll be going more in depth at center as we go, but it's just crazy the amount of value they have there over on DK. And we have a super chat here from Jay. Jay says, Greg and Eric, what is the difference between the lineup generator and the Sims? I don't know what the difference is, but he wants to get one of them, and he wants an answer for us. So yes, Jay, thank you for the super chat. And one thing I would ask is, how much volume are you playing? Because the difference between the lineup generator and the Sims, the lineup generator is giving you lineups, and you can choose which ones you like, which ones you don't like. It is still based on simulations, the lineup generator. So these are lineups that we've simmed out. We do expect to be profitable for the slate, but it's just giving you the lineups, and you're choosing which ones you like, which ones you don't like. What the Sims tool is doing in our Sims package, that's access to everything. And that includes the lineup generator as well, but then also you're getting player projections, ownership projections. And then in our Sims package, you're getting the contest generator, which is going to build out a bunch of lineups for you, depending which package you pick. The base package up to 500 lineups, the max package up to 5,000 lineups. And then you simulate all of them. And what the simulation tool does is it takes all those lineups that are built in the contest generator, and they play against each other 40,000 times. And then it sorts them based on which lineups had the highest expected ROI in a GPP setting after they all played against each other. So to me, which one you would want to get depends on like what your volume of plays. If you're only playing 1, 2, 3 lineups per night, I would say go ahead and get the lineup generator. If you're somebody who's playing, like 50 lineups, 100, 150, or if you're somebody who wants a lot of customization to your lineups, then the Sims package would be for you. And if you have other questions for me, Jay, hit me up on Twitter. A couple more YouTube memberships gifted out. Malukar and Chris Williams both gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. Appreciate both of you guys for supporting the channel. And then Jacob Kopp, God damn it. It's the same guy's name from yesterday that I wasn't able to get right. And I still don't have any clue how to say it.
It's all right. Jacob Colpatch.
All right. I hope that's correct, Jacob. Jacob, call patch. That probably wasn't it either. Top 3 pay-up options on DraftKings. Eric, who are the 3 expensive options that you're getting the most exposure to tonight?
Luka Doncic. That's not going to surprise anybody on planet Earth. And then it gets really weird at the top. What are we considering? Because if we're considering anything higher than 8K, higher than 9K, Tyrese Halliburton at 9,100, I would call a spend up. And then Tyler Hero, 6,300. So it's just got different levels to it, what you consider a spend up. For me, that was, I've got Luka 1. I've got Donovan Mitchell, somebody that was mixing in earlier, but not anymore. Tyrese Halliburton is 2 for me. I'm way over on Tyrese Halliburton. And De'Aaron Fox, I have quite a bit of 2 in that game that boasts a 234 total, Sacramento, Utah. And I think from a DFS perspective, I mean, De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, they're just going to pick up where they left off last season. And I think it's going to be a fun, tasty spot here against Utah.
There are not that many so like Luka at the high end I'm getting to, and it's not even like points per dollar. I don't even love Luka for today. There's just so much value on the slate that you have excess salary to spend, and Luka's the guy who projects the best. So I land on Luka. He is in 46% of my lineups is my exposure to.
That's close to me too.
Yeah. So a lot of Luka, and he's not projected for that much ownership either, only 13%. So Luka's somebody who I like getting to on the high end. You said Halliburton. I'm also overweight to the field on Halliburton. I don't have a third guy though.
De'Aaron Fox, I have 16% of, and he's 7. What do we have? Where'd he go? 7. I just clicked on FanDuel for a second. 7.7%. That is, so I am double the field there.
Yeah, I don't have any other player who's 8K or higher that's in double-digit percent of my lineup. So I only have 2 to give you, Jacob, because those are the only 2 expensive guys that I'm rostering. There's so much value in the mid-range on DK today that I didn't really feel a need to get to anybody who's super expensive outside of Luka. So that's going to be my answer for that one, but nothing wrong with 2 pay-up options for the day. I'll go check Discord to see what questions we have in there. One of the perks of having a Stochastic membership is you do get access to our Discord channel where you could ask us questions whenever you want throughout the day, even after the show's end. If there's any kind of late breaking news, not a lot of people do this, but you could do this at any point in time, guys. If there's a situation where a player gets ruled out and you want to know what it is that I'm doing for the situation, just at me in Discord, and I could always answer those questions.
At me, bro.
Sick Mosh is asking us, thanks for a profitable baseball season. You're welcome, Sick Mosh. And then he says, best pay-up options for DK Cash. And then shout out to the Stochastic Tools, 8 straight NHL cash game wins. Let's start a streak in the NBA streets.
Let's go. Cash is super easy to put together today. I'm not playing cash because I feel like it's going to be a lot of the same stuff. That tends to happen on like 12 game slates. On 7, 8 game slates, it doesn't, but it's so obvious. First click is Obi Toppin, but then on the top end for your spend ups, it's not like spend ups per se. I would be playing Luka in cash because I would be getting those raw points in. It's not that hard to build around him. You could have Tyus Jones at another point guard spot, but your spend up is technically Desmond Bane at 7,400. That would be the next guy in for me.
Yeah, I don't even know that I would end up getting to Luka and cash. I'm only playing tournaments today. I didn't play cash games. Yeah. If I had to play an expensive guy, it would be Luka. But if not, it's Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. at $7,400 and $6,600, who are guys that should be pay-up options, but just aren't.
Yep. You're going to be mixing in a lot of pieces. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I have so many, I have random lineups like 3% Jason Tatum, 6% Kyrie Irving, 5% Pascal Siakam. Like there are guys that I'm just like 3-4x to, but they're like 1%, 2%, and you're building a bunch of lineups and you're just rotating through a lot of the same core pieces, the Obi Toppins, the NAWs. Like we're just rotating through this value, 2-3K pieces that I'm getting to lots of iterations of guys around them. But like, I mean, God, in terms of cash, I mean, you're just playing a lot of those mid-range dudes over and over again, along with Toppin. I'm curious. I don't even know if I would be playing any W in cash. Just something I'm way overweight to in tournament. Yeah, I don't think I would. But obviously, we'll see the starting lineup, and it is a requirement that he is in it.
Yeah. So I don't expect him to start. If he does, that would be that would be a total.
I have him in as the starter. So I want to throw that out there that you and I have that different right now at the moment. I do think he ends up starting. So if he doesn't, I will not be playing NAW as much as what I was anticipating. I might get to very, very little of him, whereas right now he's near lock button for me.
Yeah. And it is possible he starts. We saw him start even in the playoffs last year.
But that's when he started, actually. He didn't start until the playoffs.
And he had like one really good game.
He was playing 38-ish minutes, but I do think another year acclimated and having an opportunity to be a flat 3K on this kind of a slate gives some utility to him that otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm expecting the starting lineup to be Conley, Edwards, Slow-Mo, Cat, and Gobert. But yeah, we'll see. The reason I think that, by the way, is because the Raptors do have a very big team outside of Dennis Schroeder. Like, they're starting OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, Jakob Poeltl. So I think that Minnesota is going to counter that with more size, even though Minnesota is already massive in the front court with Gobert and Towns. I still think that they're going to be going with my opinion, at least, is I think they're going to end up going with Kyle Anderson, but we'll see. Yeah. If that's not the case, then I'll definitely be making some alterations. And
not like NAW small. I know he's frail, but he's 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah. Still not the size of Slow-Mo, though.
No. Slow-Mo's like 6'9", 6'8".
Yeah. So that's part of it, too, is then like NAW, if you look at the Toronto matchup, then it's like NAW, is he guarding OG Anunoby? Is he guarding Scotty Barnes? It is a very
good point. I will say if you could know one starting lineup right now, because there's a game that is starting here in 32 minutes. Do we have Atlanta starting lineup? Did I miss that?
No, we do not have Atlanta starting lineup.
Okay. I think that's the most under talked about fucking important thing on this slate, because Saddiq Bey, if he doesn't start, it's going to be Jalen Johnson, and I would have infinity Jalen Johnson.
I'm pretty sure Saddiq Bey is going to start.
I'm pretty sure too, but they've gone back and forth. I'm just throwing it out there, trying to talk through where there might be a little bit of leverage, and getting a Jalen Johnson at 3,500 instead of Saddiq Bey at 5K, who I have zero interest in. That's a big deal. But he started the preseason game on the 16th. He didn't start on the preseason game on the 20th. They've rotated between those two, trying them out. You didn't have Bey start on the 20th, but he played on the 16th, and he didn't start, but he played in that game. And then they started him against Philly. So I don't know if it's like a rotational thing or if they're trying out different stuff, but there were multiple times last season where Jalen Johnson, he started and he would put his thing down at times. We had that 4-game run where he started playing like 30 minutes back at the beginning of December. And it's just somebody that I think we want to be paying very close attention to, because that's a $3,500 piece that helps you get different than nobody else would have. And I don't think anybody's talking about it.
If I could, because to answer your question that you had started this with, which was if I could have one starting lineup, which would it be? For peace of mind, the Mavericks starting lineup.
That's
to
fair.
Confirm that Luke is in.
That's very, very fair, because
and also so that I could eat dinner after the show ends, because I'm on East Coast time. So this show ends at 7:30 Eastern time. And then yesterday, we hung out, you, Jordan, Klein, we all hung out.
And then I was working till 9 because I freaking procrastinated hanging out with you. And I was like, I have 12 games to break down tonight. Sorry, Jacob. Let's party.
So for me then, because we were sitting here shooting the shit, it was 9:30. I was like, I'm getting very hungry because I've not eaten anything today. So that for me is why I would like the Luka news, because I like the peace of mind that he's in, and I want to be able to eat dinner at some point today that is not 9:30 like it was yesterday.
Michelle Watson, I apologize. I did say put his thing down. I apologize. I apologize to everybody. I will fucking clean it up.
Don't apologize. Stand by whatever it is you have going on.
Trap down and get you. Let's go.
Some more super chats that we have in here. This one is coming from, where'd it go? Oh, here we go. Matt Steele. Matt Steele said, thanks for the tips on Okogie and Saric last night. By the way, you know what we're going to be doing soon? The nuke of the night, which is 1-for-1 so far this year. Last night, Eric and I were in agreement on the nuke of the night.
Yeah.
And not only do we go with Dario Saric, who had a big game, but in my winning lineup on FanDuel last night, it had Dario Saric, who was very low owned on FanDuel last night. He was only 13% owned. So he really came through as the nuke of the night. He ended up being a little more popular on DraftKings, not crazy so, but he was a great play last night. So shortly we'll be getting to the nuke of the night for day 2 of the NBA season. But Matt Steele just saying, thanks for the tips on Okogie and Sarge last night. Tied for first with you. And you guys are great. Love to see it, Matt. Him and I hanging out in first place. Love
Why
to see it.
couldn't I tie last night? I suck.
Exactly. You already figured it out. You don't have to ask the questions. Where do you know the answer?
We had the same nuke of the night. Jones, Poole, Avdia is starting. All right, there we go. First one that I needed to change something. Great.
Yep, starting lineup for the Celtics: Holiday, White, Brown, Tatum, Porzingis, and then Jones, Poole, Avdia, Kuzma, and Gafford for the Wizards.
I'm not thrilled to have Avdia starting next to Tyus Jones, but Tyus Jones is 4,900, so there's no reason that I'm going to change anything.
Yeah, I'm cool with Tyus Jones being in lineups for sure. Fantasy Guru 76, he gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. Shout out to Fantasy Guru. We do appreciate that. And now we've got some more questions to answer from Discord. Cream wants to know, he's playing one lineup on FanDuel. Who is the must play? So I will do it like this. Here are my most exposed players at each position on FanDuel. Point guard, Markelle Fultz. Shooting guard, Talen Horton-Tucker. Small forward, Paolo Banchero. Power forward, Evan Mobley. Center, also Evan Mobley. Trying to think how I want to go with, because then center kind of gets spread out behind him. It's a lot of the guys who have power forward and center eligibility. I'll say Evan Mobley at center, and then Jaren Jackson Jr. at power forward. Overall, the player that I'm going to consider the highest priority on FanDuel is Evan Mobley. He's also a really high priority on DraftKings. Jared Allen's out. The Cavs just don't have a lot of bodies in the front court. He's going to have all the rebounding opportunities in the world as well because of the amount of small ball lineups he's going to be in. So I'm going to say Evan Mobley is the player that's the highest priority for you to get to over on FanDuel, Cream. Another question from Discord. This one is coming to us from Million Buck Short. Million Buck Short wants to know, can we get our 2 best props for tonight? Yeah, I'll go check out Odd Shopper right now. I have placed a lot of bets today. A lot of bets. I think, no lie, because
I placed a lot last night. It was nice to have everything updated last night.
I have something like 70 prop bets that I've placed for tonight's slate in between yesterday and today, because the lines went up so early that there was so much value that opened up throughout the week. And I was just able to find a lot of it just scrolling through Odd Shopper. One thing I do a lot with Odd Shopper is I just leave it open on my computer while I sit here working. And then I just resort it by the expected EV every like 10, 15 minutes or so. And a new bet pops towards the top. I just go into FanDuel, DraftKings, or whatever, and just place the bet there. So I was able to get like a ton of action in.
Mr. Nick Papa Giorgio, put $1 and get a car, put $1 and get a car, put $1 and get a car.
More or less what it was. I spent a lot of time just looking at Odd Shopper and placing bets the last couple of days, and looking forward to this.
Or sniping Pavlovich cards.
Ridiculous amount of value available. Yeah. Didn't have to place bets in the middle of the night when that fight got canceled. But anyway, the question that we have here from Million Buck Short, 2 best prop bets for today. And also if anyone wants to sign up for Odd Shopper, we have a promo going on just until the end of the week. You sign up using the promo code SLAMDUNK50. There's a link for that below, and you're going to get 50% off. That's for new or returning customers. So good time to get in because we got NBA happening. We got NFL. This is the time of year you're going to have the most bets going on there where you get the most bang for your buck. Let's see. What is one that I really want to give out here?
Jalen Duren double-double. That was a smash last night, plus 250. Those are fun times.
There were some crazy opening lines. Like Wemby opened up. His over-under was like 21.5 PRA was his opening line.
That was stupid. I got it at 24.5, and I still feel really good about that. By the way, if you're playing over at like a pick'em site like Underdog today, I think 20.5 is the number. I know we got some great stuff you can sign up for as well. Or, you could use any of the promo codes that you see here underneath the video. It's great.
Kyrie's points prop is very high. I did bet the under on. It's over under 29.5 points. Assuming that Luka plays, I guess it's the one risk here. I think he is priced up a little bit, assuming that there's some chance that Luka sits, which I don't think is going to happen. So Kyrie under 29.5 points. We have the fair line as minus 139 projected on the under. So I do like Kyrie for under 29.5 points. As for another
Sadiq
one,
Bey starting, by the way.
All right, cool.
You don't have to change anything. I have to mix it around. Again, I was going to make that change in, but I assumed it was going to be Bey, but just wanted to say that there was about a 25% chance I thought he could start, and 3,500 would have been fun.
One more that I'll give to you because he asked for 2. Josh Giddey under 17.5 points. Giddey's going to have a very well-rounded game this year, but I do think Chet is going to eat into some of his usage, and I think that points prop is a couple of points too high. We have the fair line projected for the under 17.5 at -140. The best available line is -115, so I like the under on that one. Starting lineup is out for the Pacers: Halliburton, Bruce Brown, Mathurin, Toppin, and Turner. And then, like you mentioned, we did get that Hawks starting lineup. Another question here from Miami High Life: dangerous to fade Obi Toppin on a DK? Very dangerous. Don't do it.
Don't do it. That would be not good.
The next question here is from Heflove, who says Vooch or Sengun is the last man in. I would rather play Vooch than Sengun if it's just like a 1v1 sort of situation.
Yeah, but if you're super chalky and you're playing a tournament, I'm just fine playing Sengun. He's one of 48 centers on this slate you can play.
Can you pull up the player compare tool, Jordan? Let's just see what that says about the 1v1 here. It's Heflove asking us Nikola Vucevic versus Alperen Sengun. So just a 1v1 question. And while you're pulling that up, I'll answer some other questions here as well. We have one from Justin, Just Locks. He says, Halliburton and SoCan or Hero and Triple J for a FanDuel GPP. That for me is Hero and Triple J. And here, let's do the player compare for DraftKings, this one. And who is that? On the left, I assume it's Vooch. Yeah, so Vooch on the left, Sengun on the right. So the difference in ownership between the two, it is 7% for Sengun. It is 40% for Vooch. We have Vooch winning 75% of the time to 25% for Sengun. So like Eric said, it's going to matter a little bit how chalky your lineup is, but in most scenarios, I'm going to say Vooch over Sengun, and that's what our player compare tool is leaning towards as well. We have another question here from Iron Maiden, who said, any thoughts on the Thompson twins as pivots? Are you playing either of the Thompsons?
I thought about playing the Pistons Thompson. I thought about Ayer, but I'm not going to.
I thought earlier in the day there was a chance I would get to them. But the issue you run into as you actually build out the lineups is then there's just so many good options on the slate that like you don't really find a need to play a guy who's like a 5 out of 10 if you're rating them as a play when there's like 9 out of 10 and 10 out of 10s that exist. So I'm not playing the Thompsons tonight.
It's tough. Again, Oscar would have been the guy I would go with between the two, 5,700 Detroit, but it's a Miami matchup. Cade Cunningham back running the point. I don't think people understand that's just going to be, I mean, it's a different slate. I will probably be playing a lot of him. This is not that slate.
All right, couple more questions to answer, and then Eric, we'll do the nuke of the night after that. We'll give out the best contrarian GPP play of the day that's going to nuke the slate.
Sar, yeah, sorry.
Answer the one from Heflove. Sniffs. Sniff said on DK, it seems hard to get away from THT and Toppin. Thoughts on those guys? I'm about even with the field on. Oh, never mind. I'm overweight to both of them. I was looking at my FanDuel exposure.
Are you okay? Yeah, are you overweight to Taylor Horton Tucker?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. I mean, the Sims tool is just, there's no getting away from it. You're just playing a lot of him.
Yeah, I've got THT in over half of my lineups, and then Obi Toppin's in 76.7% of my lineups. Mentioned that before. 115 of my 150 lineups have Toppin in them. So what I'm doing with them is I'm just eating the chalk there and playing both of them. Next question in here comes from Solvers Are Lame. He said, seems like double center lineups would be popular builds. What percentage of your lineups are double center? Any thoughts on how popular that field will be, that will be? So I don't care that much about position. Like I'm not looking at it and saying like, oh, I can't play a center or I have
it's just happening organically.
It's just, these are the players who are projected the best. Centers so egregiously mispriced on DraftKings. I don't have a good way to look at my lineups and say what percent of them have two centers, but it is most of them.
Most of them is the answer.
Yeah. There's no issue with playing two center lineups today. And also, you're not doing anything crazy contrarian just by not playing two centers. Like there are really good centers you could play that are lower owned. Eric had mentioned Dern before.
Yeah.
I had mentioned Xavier Tillman as being another one. There are centers that are projected for very low ownership that have really good points per dollar plays. You could be overweight to the field.
Yeah. And again, it's kind of like rotating through certain pieces. And again, the Sims tool is doing a lot of that work for me. So I don't have to overthink about it too much. I just know that there's certain pieces of chalk that would appear are showing up a lot in lineups. Obi Toppin, Taylor Horton Tucker, two of the guys that are going to show up the most. And then centers, mean, guys that I'm kind of manually boosting ROI and doing a couple of things, mainly where I think there's a chance for Jalen Duren to play a lot more minutes than what we have projected for him. I mean, I guess we're up to 31 on him now. Never mind. That's pretty much exactly where I had him at. But I got 4,800 center here in Detroit that, he's going to be playing a lot. James Wiseman, not expected to be a part of the rotation. I am very much excited about a sub 5K Duren in that spot.
All right, let's do the nuke of the night, Eric. And I think this is a fun way to do it. You do it for DraftKings. I will do it for FanDuel. And my answer is also going to correlate to a question we have in the Discord channel, because there's a player that I like on FanDuel who's projected for 0 ownership that has immense upside.
Mm-hmm. I have a player. Do I really want to go for this right now?
Oh my God, is it really going to be the same guy as me again?
All right. This would be wild if we said it at the same. Let's do it on count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Victor Wembanyama.
All right. There we go. So we are on the same page once again. I had a feeling.
Oh, it's incredible.
He's projected for he's 7,700 on FanDuel.
2% on DK. I have so much of him.
He's 1% on FanDuel, less than 1% on DraftKings. He has ridiculous upside. It is well within the realm of possibility that Wemby is an all-star this year and that he might be over 10K in like 2 weeks. And also his scoring, I like him as a contrarian play on DraftKings as well. But for FanDuel, at $7,700 at 1% ownership, his defensive stats have potential to be ridiculous this year. Now, we don't know for sure what his playing time or his usage is going to look like. There's risk here. This is a stud prospect who's playing in his first ever NBA game, but it's very clear that the ceiling is as high as it could possibly be for anybody. So the fact that nobody is playing him out of the gate, I think that the upside itself makes it worthwhile. And conversely, if he was projected for like 30 or 40% ownership, I would say we don't know what he's going to be. I'd rather be underweight to the field. But the fact that nobody's playing him, give me Wemby today. And Eric and I on the same page again. And we had a million guys to choose from. And as soon as you started talking, I had a feeling.
Unbelievable. So I'll give you the pitch on my side of things. So he played 19 minutes against Oklahoma City on the 9th. 31 DraftKings points, nearly a fantasy point and a half per minute guy. He then plays again on the 13th against Miami, plays 23 minutes, 38 and a half, nearly a point and a half fantasy point per minute guy. 21 minutes, put up 30. 21 minutes, put up 38, nearly doubled it. Maybe a 2x guy. I put his base rate in for today just to, be conservative on that kind of a spectrum, because again, he was averaging 1.5 fantasy points per minute. We have him here at Stochastic around 1.12. I put him 1.2, 1.3 just to kind of see what happens. And that's straddling the difference between his fantasy point per minute rate during the preseason and what we're projecting out here for today. And he was showing up in 22% of lineups. So 8,500 multi-positional eligibility doesn't really matter when you have this many underpriced players, but I'm talking about pure ceiling. We haven't seen him play 30 minutes yet. And if we had seen him play 30 minutes in the preseason, there's a chance he put up a 55 or 60 bomb and he would be chalked today. So I think there are so many good plays on the slate that it would be foolish for me to say you have to go out of your way to go play him. But just know that our baseline for him, I think, is pretty conservative. And he's got a slow pace matchup against Dallas. They were the slowest paced team in the NBA last season, but adjusted defense rating 24th. I feel as though Wembanyama is the guy that you want to be overweight to early and often.
Yeah. And like I said, it would be different if he was had any ownership, but he's projected for 1%. Right. Now, a lot of our projection is data oriented. And like you said, we're pretty conservative with our projection on him. So I do think he is going to be a little bit higher on than what his ownership projection is, just because he's somebody who I kind of think exceeds the data in terms of people are just going to want to click his name because he's such a hyped prospect, but still somebody who I think really makes a lot of sense. The next question that we have in here is from Eric B. On a 12-game slate, what's the strategy for cash versus tournaments? Do you try to play one low-owned player in tournaments with chalk? So basketball is inherently different than other sports where it's very predictable relative to baseball or to football. So there are going to be times where there's players that I think are going to be overowned or underowned, but by and large part, I'm going to be playing the players in single entry that project the best. And then in large field in cash games, I'm only playing the guys who project the best. Even in tournaments, I'm generally playing the guys who project the best as well. There are going to be certain situations where guys projected for like an egregious amount of ownership that I'm going to want to be underweight to the field to. But there isn't something I look at where it's like I have to have one like 1% owned guy in every single lineup, which is kind of what it seems like he's asking.
Yeah, like a lot of things in DFS, it's slate dependent. Things are going to change. The difference between a 2-game slate where you're playing the 8th, 9th, 10th guys in a rotation, and then today where you're playing all starters or maybe like a couple bench guys here or there, like a Kobe White, things of that nature. Like it's inherently like different. You're playing the guys that project out the best, and you're not really worried about, oh man, I have all of these chalky pieces. Now, as the slate goes on, there are no rules. If somebody gets surprisingly like ruled out, you're getting leverage going to them. That's why late swap is such an important part about what we do here, and why the late swap tool is such an amazing addition here at Stochastic, and something that toying around with it yesterday, even on a 2-gamer where we didn't have any news, but it was just kind of something to get prepared for a day like today. Maybe you get a surprising scratch. Maybe something happens of that nature. And like, you want to be locked, ready, and loaded when that kind of news breaks. And I would have zero regard for ownership in those spots.
And if you guys want to take advantage of an overlay situation, over on Owner's Box, which is a new site that we're partnered with, we've done a lot of work with them on our football shows this year. If you guys haven't heard about Owner's Box, they are a site that for football, they have Superflex. They're also supported in all of our tools and data. They're in the Sims tool. We have projections, ownership projections for them. They're big basketball contests. There's only about 50% full right now. So if you guys want to chase some overlay, go check out Owner's Box and sign up using the link that we have below. Because, you're not going to find overlay too many places in the DFS world right now. And their main contest is only halfway full right now. And when you do sign up, you get a deposit bonus for up to $500 over on Owner's Box. So go take advantage of that and some of the overlay there. Super chat from Chris Williams. Thanks again for the mega profitable MLB season, up 5 figures. Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate it. Chris was in the YouTube chat constantly for baseball and was really supportive, gifting out YouTube memberships and asking questions about late slates and main slates. So thank you for supporting all our content this year, Chris. And for tonight, he wants to know, for the DK late slate, can I ask your 3 favorite plays? And it also says, hit the like button, people. Bring yourself some good karma and a tone. Yes. Like the video and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me look at the late slate really quickly and I'll build out.
Super easy. I mean, we just talked about Doncic and Wembanyama. Obviously on a 2-game late slate, you're going to get Wemby being a lot more popular, whereas he's not going to be getting any ownership here on this main slate. So that's cool. I will say Scoot Henderson at 5,800 is somebody that I've kind of targeted. I registered for some lineups and I'm going to kind of put it together here after the show. I feel like Westbrook is a piece that on the main slate, he's going to get a little bit more attention than what I want to be paying for him there. But on the late slate, 6,500 for him, that piece makes a lot of things work. So those are 4 right from the get-go for you.
Yeah, I'm underweight to Westbrook on the main slate. I'm sure I'd be underweight to him on the late slate as well. I would get overweight to Luka. I would be getting to Wemby as a contrarian play, where he's going to be more popular on the late slate, like you said, Eric. But still, if he's going to be so contrarian on the main slate, tends to it's reasonable that he's going to be lower on there. And then Jeremy Sokan, another guy who I think makes sense for that slate. Next super chat is from Cornell Granville. Says, how could you not like Wemby tonight if you're expecting close to 4? We do like him.
Literally said we liked him.
Yeah. Like Cornell, we like Wemby a lot. He was our nuke of the night. He's the contrarian play that we like getting to today.
I was keeping him under wraps because nuke of the night went completely ballistic yesterday. He was the best play of the slate. I thought, obviously, there were value pieces that did better than him, but he ended up being an awesome piece to have in your lineups regardless. I feel like Wemby, this is a different type of nuke of the night, because this is one that if he went out and put up 30, it wouldn't surprise me. Like yesterday, you're talking about potential DNP out of nowhere, even though I didn't think that was going to happen. But Wembanyama, there could be unparalleled type 1.5 fantasy point per minute ceiling, like Giannis type, Joel Embiid type. Now, I don't think it's going to happen right away, but if it does, I'm going to be overweight to like 0.2% on DK.
Agreed. Yeah. We both like him. Good tournament play. I wouldn't play him in a cash game or anything like that if that's what you mean, but for tournaments, yeah, I really like Wemby a lot today. Next question is from Xiaolin Verse. Xiaolin is asking us, cheap center that can break the slate on FanDuel. Let's see. What are we going to consider?
What's Duran's price on FanDuel today?
Duran is Let me sort by my exposures at center.
Kind of for 29 on DK today. So I'm just throwing it out there that is somebody that I got to imagine that he's cheap, or if he's one of those guys, 62, I was going to say that's more than I would want to be paying for Duran. Very, very different play over there.
The cheapest player that I have double-digit exposure to on FanDuel is Zach Collins, but he's popular power forward and center eligibility. I'll say Xavier Tillman at 5,900. Xavier Tillman, 59. The pricing's so much better at the center position on FanDuel. I'll say, either Xavier Tillman or Clint Capella. Clint Capella is 6K, Xavier Tillman at $5,900. Capella is only a center. So if you're looking for somebody just at center eligibility, I'll say Capella. Tillman, you can fit him into multiple spots at $5,900. He's power forward and center eligible. So Xavier Tillman and Clint Capella, I think those are two guys that make sense there. We have Malcolm Revamp says, Eric, what is your main slate must-have on DK and FanDuel? So Eric, who's the player that you're just going to say must-have today? Can't do without.
You can't do without Obi Toppin today. You just can't.
Yeah, I'll say Obi Toppin as well on DK. And for FanDuel, I'm going to say Evan Mobley. We got that question earlier, and definitely one that I think makes a whole lot of sense. Shikari Mfood says, why do you like Alexander Walker? So, Eric, what is it that you like about Nickeil Alexander-Walker?
Well, he better be starting. I have said that multiple times already. I have him as the starting small forward for this basketball team. Greg, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being Kyle Anderson, in which case I would be hitting eject on it. There are a bunch of games starting here in that window. I'm going to be late swapping using the late swap tool. Excited to be featuring that here over the next, 30 minutes we'll have for the post-lock show. We'll be able to talk through some of those examples. We'll get that starting lineup. We'll be able to react to it, but he's 3K. How does that sound? He's 3K. That's a good enough reason for me. He should be starting, and that's cool.
Yeah, if he starts, I'm not projecting him to start right now. If he does, though, he's a starter at 3K. He would have a pretty decent opportunity. He was playing 30-plus minutes in the playoffs when he was starting. So we would just need more information on what the starting lineup is. Like Eric said, if he I agree with Eric. If he starts, he looks great. If he doesn't, then I don't have as much interest in him. And as of right now, I'm not expecting him to start. So a little bit more information is definitely going to be needed there when it comes to Nickeil Alexander-Walker. A few minutes left to go here, guys, but don't go anywhere, because even after the slate locks, Eric and I are going to be sticking around for 30 minutes for the post-lock show. Same stuff we did yesterday, where we'll react to some of the stuff that goes on. If any late-breaking news happens to come up, we'll be covering that on the show. Maybe we could build some lineups for Showdown again. I thought that was a pretty good exercise we did yesterday. So stick around for the 30 minutes post-lock. We'll do some bets that we like for the night as well. And if you guys haven't checked out our tools at stokastic.com, now is the time to take advantage of the promo, because when you use the promo code TIPOFF and sign up using that link we have below, 20% off. And this is not going to be a standing offer. You only have a week to take advantage of it. So now is the time if you guys want to sign up for all the new tools that we have at stokastic.com. Let's see what else we have in the Discord channel. So I thought I saw a few more questions that came in, and we do. Here we have Am Jameson wants to know from us, what are our thoughts on Derek Lively on FanDuel? It seems like he's somebody that the Mavericks are pretty high on, but there's so many good center options. Like Lively just doesn't make the cut for me. I'm not playing.
Doesn't make the cut for me either. Nope.
JEW for DK single entry, 2 favorite chalk players to fade and 2 favorite low owned plays. So 2 chalk players you're underweight to the field to on DK, Eric, and then 2 contrarian players you're overweight to.
Talked about Russell Westbrook before. That was kind of a clear-cut one for me, where as soon as I saw that, I think that with Kawhi and Paul George there, we saw so many times where they were absent one or both, and I think that kind of skews some of the numbers. There's blowout potential. There's a lot of different things that kind of are in play where on a slate like this, Russell Westbrook could go and nuke it at 22.6%. It would not surprise me, but I feel comfortable getting to a lot of other options. The other one is Nikola Vucevic, 6,900. He's awesome, but he's pulling 41.6% ownership, and there are so many good centers. We just talked about 48 of them being in play. I think just using only my center spot for him there, albeit against an OKC team that outside of Chet Holmgren, who has some height, again, they just don't have a lot of bigs there anymore, whereas they used to have like 3 or 4 of those guys like Sarr and Jeremiah Robinson Earl rotating in. Vooch should get his on the glass, should be effective here, but that could be true about a lot of guys who are undervalued at center.
Yeah, so for me, players, let me sort by our ownership projection. I am like you, underweight to the field on Westbrook. I have 11% of him. He's projected for north of 20%. So he's a chalk option that I'm not as high on. I'm underweight to the field on Vooch as well, but I'll find another one. Brandon Ingram is projected for nearly 20% ownership. I'm underweight to the field.
That's a weird one. That's a weird one.
Yeah, so I'll say Ingram and Westbrook as the two ones that I'm underweight to the field to. As far as contrarian players, I'm overweight to. Luka's only project for 13%. That's an easy one to get over the top of. And then another one, Halliburton at 8%. I'm overweight to him. If I'm going on the cheaper end, actually more in the mid-range. Here's another guy too. Mark Williams. We also got a question.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I talked about him a little bit there. Yeah. I can't believe the ownership there.
Cream asks, I mean, I get it too. And there's just so many centers to play. You can only play so many.
So play the guy coming off the bench who needs things to kind of break his way, or maybe that's a full timeshare with Richards. That Mark Williams, Richards, like it could be a thing, but I think it's unlikely. So don't do it.
Yeah. So Cream is asking, what do you think about Mark Williams on FanDuel? I think Williams has ridiculous upside. And he's a very good points per fantasy producer.
Who?
Mark Williams.
Oh, yeah. He's very good. Also, Denny Avdia, I'm getting a lot more of. I wanted to throw that in here from the get-go now that he's starting. If anybody
got Cap and Akella asking us, should I not play Toppin, THT, and Levine? Nope, you should play all of those guys.
Should play all of them. They sound lovely.
Yeah, play all of them. Gangrene wants to know Grant or Barnes. I assume he means Harrison Barnes and I'm trying to think which Grant and Barnes does he mean? Does he mean Grant Williams, Jeremy? So Jeremy Grant and Scotty Barnes, I guess that would be. I'm not really playing either of them.
That's cool.
Scotty Barnes, if it has to be one, but I don't really like either of them for this.
Yeah, I don't either. That sounded weird.
The Miggy Roberts, chances that Doncic sits tonight, I will say 10%.
10, very low.
Tim Lee, favorite flag plant. Relative to ownership, it actually is Luka for me. He's not projected for very much ownership, and he's in almost half of my lineup. So Luka.
I'm with you.
Luka, that is my flag plant. Let me double check to make sure we didn't. Oh, we got some super chats that just came in here. We've got Teddy Wayman. Thoughts on John Collins on FanDuel? Thanks and cheers. I am not getting to John Collins on FanDuel. John Collins is in none of my lineups right now. So that's my opinion on John Collins. I like Zach Collins, John Collins less so. And then a debuff for Yahoo, Townsend, Şengün, or Mobley and Bam Adebayo. I'm going to say Mobley and Bam Adebayo. I didn't build lineups for Yahoo, though, so I'm not totally sure, but just going off what I think the projections would be there, Mobley and Bam Adebayo as my preferred side there. We only got 1 minute left to go until lock. If you guys haven't done yet, get those lineups uploaded and also like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Darius Garland confirmed starting.
Cool.
Nothing unexpected there. Jets World, Hero or Westbrook, last man in DK, Hero.
Hero for sure.
Let's pull up one more time, though, just to see what it says. Jordan Klein, player compare tool, Tyler Hero and Russell Westbrook. I'm pretty sure this is going to be Hero by a decent margin, but let's see. We'll see what the data says. Let's put a guess in. I'm going to say like 70-30 in favor of Hero. What are you going to guess, Eric?
Yeah, that sounds correct. I'll go with it.
All right. Oh, it came out Westbrook's way.
Wow.
All right. So so for me personally, I do prefer Tyler Hero, but the player compare tool prefers Russell Westbrook. So there we've got Westbrook coming in at 53.8 to Tyler Hero's 46.2. And then no other questions right now in the Discord channel. We do have the slate has locked. Slate is locked. So Eric, before we start to talk more about the games ongoing and whatnot and look at some of the ownership, what is your biggest rooting interest for the night?
Biggest rooting interest? Probably Luka. We're probably on the same page there.
I'm trying to remember what was when we were doing this last night.
Oh, Nickeil Alexander-Walker starting. How you feeling today?
All right.
Hi. I
NAW.
have so unbelievably a lot of him. That's probably my strongest rooting interest now. I know he's not the best fantasy point per minute guy, but he's going to play a lot. I assume that he's just going to be somebody that they prioritize going forward. Looked really good alongside, and the other guys kind of fit the mold of somebody that they were looking for. And Kyle Anderson off the bench, that's kind of the way Memphis planned to utilize or preferred to utilize him all of his tenure there. I think he's a little bit better in that kind of a role, can do some ball handling too. That's what he was in college at UCLA. He was a point guard, but Kyle Anderson coming off the bench.
Yeah, Kyle Anderson will be coming off the bench. Eric was right on that. I was not on the correct side. I'd guess Kyle Anderson would be starting. At DraftKings, we have NAW, the flat min. On FanDuel, he is $4,300. I'm less inclined to play him at $4,300. I know that you like him a good amount for DK, but for FanDuel, would you be playing him at 43, Eric?
No, I would not. I can pretty confidently say I would not play him on FanDuel.
How much of him are you trying to get to, or are you changing anything? You already
told you yesterday I had 100% of him when I crunched ahead of time. I kind of trimmed that down just in case. And obviously there are so many plays to get to on this slate that that's probably a little bit much that I would be going that direction, but there is no doubt that he is a phenomenal piece of value now.
Yep, he is the flat min.
Yep, I'm going to have almost 100% of him again, so that's cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me message Lee and ask if we currently have NAW projected for 26 minutes. I'm not sure if that was expecting him to start or come off the bench.
And he's not the best fantasy point per minute guy, so I can understand to a certain extent why that would be the number. But yeah, I had him starting. I have him in for 30 minutes, and he's showing up a ton for me. Again, if you go 0.66 for that on 30, you're looking at 20. I don't think that's going to be his baseline. I think he's going to be closer to a 0.8 fantasy per minute guy this season. So, I mean, putting him mid-20s, flat 3K, I can rotate around all of the studs and all the land to get to them at super low ownership on a slate like this, play infinity. I'm probably going to end up with 100% Luka Doncic now, too.
So we had per Lee, because I was just messaging him, Lee, who is doing the projections, and also shout out to Lee, just coming back from paternity leave. Wanted to make sure that he was back here for the NBA season. So shout out to Lee, and congrats on the new baby. And Lee is saying that he's going to put him in for 29 minutes, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Okay. We had 26 before, so be a couple extra fantasy points going his way. I'm going to update my lineups for this news, and I can use the late swap tool here right now.
Said it's fun.
All right, NAW, let's update some of this and see what I end up getting to with him. Anything else that you're going to be changing from the Timberwolves from this?
Somebody just said Isaac Okoro starting. I expected him to start. The huge difference between the two, Isaac Okoro is trash and always has been in terms of a fantasy point per minute perspective. 0.6 is kind of what I have for his baseline. He was 0.637 in our projections. So I ended up even a little bit lower on him there. 3,800 on FanDuel. On DK, I doubt that I still get to him. I strongly prefer Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Okay. I am in the process of doing all my lineups. And this is the first time that I've actually used our late swap tool during a slate, because I was involved in a lot of the testing and playing around with it, but there wasn't really a need to late swap during yesterday's slate. So I'm going to be doing that right now as we answer some of these questions.
I handed it a couple of things, like the one lineup that I had that had the combination. This is actually kind of funny. The combination that I had from the Sims tool, it had Jokic with Prince, which you obviously needed that, and had Gordon as the other piece of it. Swapped off of Moses Moody and the Nuts. It was like a Chris Paul and Moses Moody 2v2 against something else. And that was not a good decision.
You were considering Moody?
No, he just showed up in like a random lineup because I was going back and forth between the late swap tool and then looking at our other stuff. No, I was not contemplating him. He didn't show up in the Sims either, but I had put it into Cruncher and like throwing around some different stuff just to kind of like see the side by side. And when you don't have it where you have like a player that you give a boost to or whatever. It ended up having to play Moody because of the randomness on it. And so I was like, I can't do that. So I got rid of it.
One thing that, oh, by the way, shout out to Guitar Z-Man. This is actually a really good message to be getting. Guitar Z-Man said that he used late swap to build his lineups in first place, open entries in CSV, and save the file in late swap. So Guitar Z-Man actually used the late swap tool last night and ended up winning a tournament with it. So that's pretty good testimonial for the new late swap tool, which I am pretty excited about, especially for some of these situations like this post-lock, where I have a better process as opposed to just like optimizing lineups again. Now I could actually build out lineups and do it in a way where you're Jordan banning people. What are we doing here?
Jordan
banning people. You got a counter going?
He does.
You should do the inverse where it's like, in cartoons where it's like, 0 days since last incident or whatever. You should keep a counter going how many days he's gone since he hasn't been banned by you.
Ban hammer.
Look at how many emails this guy has.
Oh, are you able to see that? Good point. I like Brandon Katz being around.
Perseverance.
I don't have any issues with anybody
out there. Yeah, doing the Lord's work.
Oh, we got Rinpack Ryan Shaw up in the chat saying that Jordan Klein plays 100% Isaac Okoro. No, Jordan Klein's guy is Jordan had that random big man that he really liked last year that he'd always say.
Ish Wainwright.
No, but Ish Wainwright was your Twizzler boyfriend. Who is the big man who every time we're doing
Red Vines? Don't you dare!
Oh, my bad, Red Vines.
Okay.
Who was the player, Jordan, who before every show you would always say it was going to be his night, and it never was, and then it was at one point randomly.
Wasn't it was it Brandon Boston?
No.
I feel like it was Brandon Boston Jr.
He was no. I definitely liked him a lot. I don't know who the big man is, though. Let me think about it.
There's got to be somebody who's big, sexy that Jordan Klein couldn't wait to get behind. I don't know.
It's a player with a huge hog because that's just Jordan's type.
Oh yeah,
but
just when he sees it in the shorts and he gives him a red vine and he gets a little giddy and it's all right. We had some fun. We're gonna have to run that back here. Are you going to watch Wemby on Sunday? I was thinking about it. You're going for sure. Yeah, I might have to make that happen because I didn't end up. So I was telling you guys yesterday, but a buddy of mine, there was a draft that they have at his work. He lives in Dallas. He didn't end up getting the tickets for game 1 or game 2 of the World Series, which are going to be Friday, Saturday. I was going to maybe spur the moment, fly out Friday night, Saturday be at the World Series, fly back home, but that is no longer going to be happening. So sad.
Right. I am rebuilding my lineups here.
Yeah, me too. I have a lot of Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Diabate. Was it Diabate? Clippers?
No.
Oh,
it was not. When I hear the name, I'll remember it. I know that's not who it was. Have any of the games tipped off yet, by the way?
No. Not to my knowledge.
No tip-offs yet.
Nope. No tip to tip yet.
Oh, so anyway, before we got that starting lineup, I was going to ask you, do you remember which player you said was your rooting interest last night when we were heading into lock?
Who would it been? I can't remember. I don't think we had that conversation last night, did we?
Yeah, we did. Right after lock.
From the first game, who was my rooting interest from yesterday? I'm pretty positive it was Austin Reeves, who had a good game until he didn't.
For me, it was Aaron Gordon for me last night, and he did have a good game.
He did. That was lovely. That was a good call. You were kind of all over everything that you needed yesterday.
It helped. Well, yeah, if you win, there's a good chance that you were either that or you just get lucky with like one line that pops up. But I had a handful of good lines. It was a good way to start the year.
Yeah. I think we were both underweight to Prince, but I think he was in your FanDuel lineup, wasn't he?
No.
Oh, he wasn't. Torian Prince wasn't in it?
Nope.
No, it was awesome.
No, I actually, at the end, I needed a Koji to outscore. him to win.
Got it.
He got the rebound.
That's the last rebound. 2 seconds left. Yeah.
We have a super chat from N Hansen 19 said, after swapping, favorite 10,300 utility for a DK GPP. After swapping, favorite 10,300 utility. All right, let me look. 10,300 on DK. 10,300.
Kyrie. Isn't that like the only guy, really?
I don't like any of them. The player that I have, the player projected the best under 10-3, but he's already locked, is Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
I guess Sabonis by default.
Sabonis by default, because, he's at the 10-3. And again, he's got pretty nifty ceiling upside. We've seen that, I don't know, infinity times in the last year and a half. So I can probably be okay with it. But that's in no way, shape, or form a priority.
I'm wondering what other options he has, because I don't like playing Sabonis. But like, if that's just what you get with your salary left there.
He could have a great personality. He could have lots of options.
Eric, we're trying to help him make some money here.
Okay. I'm sorry.
N Hansen, you don't have to leave us a super chat. Just let me know in the YouTube chat if there's any other possible players you could swap off of or move up. We've got some more super chats here. This one is from Abby. Just said, good luck tonight, everybody. Thank you for the super chat. And then he said, Otto Porter or McDaniels getting floor time. I have no interest in either of them as far as DFS goes.
Yeah, it's a no from me, dog.
Porter, I don't think is likely to see floor time. I think McDaniels is more likely to play of the two of them. But I think the most likely scenario is that both of them are DNP coaches' decisions.
That is probably the most likely.
And then, so Porter or McDaniels. I'll say McDaniels, but neither of them.
Neither.
I have a feeling this is probably a showdown question. Right? That has to be a showdown question.
I would assume so. But I mean, isn't McDaniels out if we're talking about that McDaniels from the Timberwolves?
No, I assume he means the other McDaniels.
Well, the other McDaniels is on Toronto, but like I projected him for 0 minutes. So they're both 0 minutes. One's hurt and got paid. The other one's not going to play. So they can hang out in Toronto together. That's nice. The little brotherly love.
Right. Let's see if we had anything else in Discord and if any of the games have tipped off. We do have a question here from Trouble35 said, how much Tyus did you end up with in DK GPPs? Tyus Jones.
39%.
Tyus Jones for me, 46%. So I will be rooting for him. Although, what did
Avdia end up at? That's the one that I was curious about, where Avdia was going to land. I mean, there's so many good plays that it's like, is what it is. But Avdia is only 5.2%. That's low with him starting.
Charlotte Hornets have 4 points, all scored by Mark Williams so far. Let's go.
Hi, sir. How are you this fine day?
Obi Toppin is a 0. Goose egg so far. Are we panicking?
I mean, again, he was a can't miss on the slate, but I think I have 58% of him. I ended up lower as a result of me wanting to wait on Nickeil Alexander-Walker as my 3K piece in some of those lineups, and that's exactly what it's going to be.
It's only 30 seconds into the game, so I'm not panicking yet, but I want to put it on.
I'm panicking. Yep, I'm crying myself a river. How much you were overweight? You were over 60% on him, right? Daniel Gafford, by the way, just tip drill to himself. Good stuff.
I have 76% of Obi Toppin.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I was going to, I'm assuming if you had Nickeil Alexander-Walker news beforehand, you might not have played that much, or would you have just gotten to all of him and no Nickeil Alexander-Walker?
To repeat the question again?
Nothing. Did you end up playing Nickeil Alexander-Walker?
I am still in the process of swapping my lineups, but I'm going to have a minimal amount of him. A lot of it's because of how much Toppin I already have.
And I mean, again, there's a good mid-range. The mid-range is just absolutely loaded. So if you didn't play him, I don't blame you, but I'm going to just play somebody that after lock ends up being a much more appealing play.
Let's see. So I'll try. Yeah, so I ran my lineups once through the late swap tool and just didn't really get to very much of Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So I'm upping his projection and trying it one more time. If I just don't get to a lot of them, that means that I just am not.
That's fine. Again, it wouldn't be the weirdest thing ever to just not get to him. I wouldn't blame you.
I even have my new projection file named Nickeil Alexander-Walker because he's the guy who I'm specifically making this file for. But yeah, it looks like I'm just not going to be getting there. All right. Well, what do we have?
I am 98% topping because of Eric. Stop it. He's like my second highest owned player on the entire slate next to Luka. So stop it.
What did he
I'm
say?
just saying you could not live without him or Luka. I gave like a different answer than Luka for it. What did Obi end up in the $15, by the way?
Obi Toppin in the $15.
57%. I'm like, I'm on the field, literally on the field. I have zero rooting interest on. Oh, man, it's weird. Denny's just smashing. This is beautiful.
Oh, you were asking what his ownership was. What did it end up being?
Denny Avdia, 5.2%. Obi Toppin, 57.11.
Gotcha.
Tyus Jones, 38.51. He got steamed up there too.
Let's look at some bets. Let's see what it is that is projecting well for us from a bets perspective. And are there any bets that you like for tonight, Eric?
Yeah, I had a lot. Jalen Duren still available. Anything better than plus 200. Again, I have been projected for a double-double, rated 12 and 10.5. That is nifty. We're talking a guy that's going to be getting the lion's share of the center minutes, new coaching staff there with Mo going to Detroit from Phoenix, I think by way of firing in Phoenix, but I digress. I think you're going to see some very, very pronounced minutes here for Jalen Duren in this front court. It is not Marvin Bagley season. It is not James Wiseman season. He came in and he basically is going to have none of that nonsense. Duren at Memphis, Duren as a rookie, he's just so much better than those two. It's not even funny. So if you want to win basketball games eventually one day, Duren can be a starting center for you. Those other two fools cannot be. So I do think he's going to play 30 plus minutes here going forward. I would be shocked. You talk about historical pricer or what that tag is going to be. I would be shocked if the minutes I'm projecting him for going forward, he's going to be 48 for very long.
Totally agree. On the flip side, I think that's the case for every single center on DraftKings today.
That's true. But we're talking from a betting perspective.
Yeah.
Again, plus 250 last night on FanDuel. It was the best bet on OddsShopper. It's since slumped down to like plus 220, plus 230. Threw it into the premium Discord a little bit earlier in the day. Wanted to give them the heads up on that one because, well, he ended up being a lock for Lindy's locks. It just ended up being something where Jalen Duren was underprojected, I felt like, by the books.
There was one double-double that was really sticking out to me. I have to scroll through all my bets and pick it now because there are a million
of them.
I do. By the way, I do have Duren plus 250 to double-double. It's one of the ones I placed.
My guy.
Oh, here's another one that I liked a lot. Daniel Gafford plus 550 to have a double-double.
Oh, yeah, that was a weird one. I didn't get to it in time. It ended up being way worse number, and then it was pretty much efficient at that point. But it was like 300 or 350 when I pulled it up, but plus 550, I did see that sneaky at the top.
Yeah, that's one that for like a long odds play. And, basketball is so much different betting compared to something like baseball, where baseball all the time, you're betting props that are big plus money odds, a lot of home run props. Basketball, there aren't that many you find where it's like, oh, I really like a plus 550 NBA prop. This is one I really did, unless you're, laddering something. But plus 550 for the double-double for Daniel Gafford. That was one that was really standing out to me last night. And let's go ahead and look. Jordan, can you pull up OddsShopper? Let's see what's at the top of the board right now.
No Denny, no cash. No Denny, no cash. Nobody overreact except for no Denny, no cash.
Hey, 2 points and 2 boards for Gafford in 2 minutes. I'll take that.
That's pretty good too.
On his way to a double-double, potentially. On his way. So here's currently what's projecting the best here in OddsShopper for tonight's slate. And we could look at some of the top ones and see how we feel about them here, starting with Paul George, whose over-under is 23.5 points. We're on the side of the under, and a lot of our projections are going to lean towards unders. The reason why is there's been a really big shift in sports betting where books recognizing that people really prefer betting the overs to the unders. The lines are skewed that way, and there's way more juice on overs than unders. So in general, if you guys want to be profitable betting and you're like trying to choose between sides, you do generally want to lean more towards the unders than the overs. But Paul George over under 23.5 points. We like the under. Do you like that side of Paul George's points prop, Eric?
Yes.
Okay. I do as well. And something else to add is about Paul George. This matchup against Portland Trailblazers, I think Portland's going to get smashed in a lot of games this year.
Yes,
Coming right out of the gate to open up the season, I don't know if the Clippers are going to want to play their guys big minutes because they've always been conservative with their playing time. And now you also have a spot where they can potentially win by blowout. That's another avenue where the under hits for Paul George. I also like under 23.5 for Paul George.
Clarkson is starting. Wanted to double check that too.
Okay, yeah.
The exact starting five we expected, but I'm assuming you expected it too. Clarkson, Horton Tucker, Markkanen, Collins, Kessler.
Yes. Big
I
line.
like over 2.5 blocks for Walker Kessler at plus money as well. That was another bet that I had.
No, I think that makes a whole lot of sense. It's not one that I bet, but last year I bet a ton of blocks props for Walker Kessler, and they were really profitable. I probably should have actually gotten on that. Is it still up? Do you know?
Find it.
Just search.
I'm doing that. I'm going. Walker
No.
Kessler.
I was asking Jordan to just.
Oh yeah,
search.
Jordan, do your job.
Yeah.
Love you. Plus 120 at BetMGM right now. Best available number. It was plus 128 yesterday at Caesars.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, over 2.5 there, plus 125. Yeah, I like that line. I think that's a pretty good look there. And by the way, if you guys want to sign up for Odd Shopper, if you're in a state that has sports betting, now is the time to sign up. Use that promo code SLAMDUNK50 and use that link below. 50% off your first Odd Shopper subscription. Let's do a quick slate overview, Eric. What has happened in the first few minutes?
It is Denny Avdia, and we got Obi Toppin with a board, so now we can stop panicking. He's on the board.
So he's averaging what, 0.25 fantasy
Denny
points?
Avdia, 4-4-2. Somebody that I ended up jamming to 26% of right there before lock. I brought him up like 2 or 3 minutes before lock because I said I got a lot more of him than I was expecting because that was not somebody on my radar to start there. I didn't think he was going to end up being the guy who started, but so such is life there. No Corey Kispert, no anybody else. I don't even know what I had for that starting lineup. There were 24 starting lineups I put together. And Denny Avdia, for some reason, I did not have his starting. So
he is the highest scorer on the slate right now. Denny has 14 fantasy points. Hot start for him. We have Franz Wagner with 12, Şengün with 12, Mark Williams with 11. Just all of the centers here, just destroying. We have, of the top scoring players, 3 of the top 5 are centers right now, which not totally unexpected considering how the centers were priced today. And then we have a good start here for Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones has 7.5 fantasy points in the first few minutes of that game. So we do like to see that. And Jordan Poole is up to 2 assists for Jordan Poole. I didn't think he was ever going to pass the ball in Washington, but Jordan Poole up to
he still might not. Who do you think is going to start for the Clippers today?
That's a really tough one. My gut feel is Covington.
That's mine too, but I just want to throw out the Norman Powell at 5K is somebody I've been like entertaining, jamming all day, like been entertaining it, and I haven't done it. So as we're winding down the last 6 minutes, that was one thing I wanted to have on high alert because we normally were going to do Showdown or the late slate or take a look at something there. I want to at least have Norman Powell could start, and then he would be on your bingo card as somebody you want. Don't think he's completely out of play as is. I don't want to play bench guys on this kind of a slate, but like he is good. Like he's going to be decent for this Clippers team. No Terrence Mann, and I assume it's going to be Covington. I also assume it could be Morris as well, which is a disgusting thing to say in the year of our Lord 2023. But I'm just throwing it out there. Norman Powell would be awesome to see get a surprise start.
I'm going Westbrook, George, Kawhi Leonard, Robert Covington, Zubats. I wouldn't even put I think they like having him off the bench. I agree with you that he's a really good player, but it's too much of an overlap in skill sets with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard.
But he opens the floor up a little bit. He can play off the ball. It's all he did in Toronto with Fred VanVleet. So like, it's not unheard of, but I'm with you where I think they probably want him coming off the bench. But if he got the start instead of a Dusty Covington or Morris, I wouldn't be shocked either.
I'm going to say that it's either, to me, it's most likely either going to be Covington or Batum that starts. Not the not the Norman Powell situation. Now, with that said, these are guys between Covington and neither of them do I expect to play big minutes.
No,
it's not something
like
I'm dying
a
to
rotation
swap
and then bring in Powell.
Let's see, do I have any? I have no Covington lineups on DraftKings, and he's my expected starter right now on FanDuel. Do I have any? No, I didn't play him on either site. So it's not like I would be swapping anything or wanting to play Batum if he starts.
Got you.
Double check Discord to make sure there are no questions left for us here. We do have one here from a couple of them, actually. Iron Maiden 2 wants to know THT and Triple J or NAW and Mobley. Ooh, tough one.
I like the NAW Mobley side.
I mean, I think all four of those players.
Oh no, come on. A Kongwu smash. This is bullshit. This was always going to happen. Take back everything. Play the backup centers. Just that one. I literally had to click out a Kongwu out of my player pool earlier today. So great.
Oh, by the way, he updated. It's either THT and Duran or NAW and Mobley. NAW and Mobley. And then we have Sniffs asking, do the Sims take a bit too late swap or should I restart? If it's taking you a second, then just reset it. It doesn't take that long. JEW said, do you like the Bulls guys or the Grizzlies chalk better? I have more exposure to the Grizzlies than the Bulls.
Same. I get the Bulls chalk. I also, there's a part of me that wanted to bring Chet Holmgren along for the ride in that one too. Probably the only guy who could have any chance to win a Rookie of the Year. We talked about him a little bit yesterday where, the betting odds for Wembanyama still sitting around -140, -150 to win Rookie of the Year. Barring injury, he's going to win. But like Chet Holmgren would be the only one who has the kind of upside that I would see rival it. Scoot still has to play next to Simons. There would have to be a lot of things that would have to work out for him to get that nod. I really like Chet Holmgren and his future. It's going to be a fun Oklahoma City team to watch.
How live do you think Chet is to win Rookie of the Year?
Again, it really depends like what his minutes can get ramped up to here. Obviously coming off a Liz Frank injury, they've been pretty chill with him in the preseason. I've got him in for 30 minutes though tonight. And again, I don't know if he's going to be like a good rebounding big. He can step out and knock down shots. He can do things. I mean, I would assume the number's probably too tight for me to want to take him over Wembanyama, but like, thing is, Wembanyama is going to do everything for San Antonio. Keldon Johnson, decent real life piece. Decent real life piece. And Vassell just got paid. But like, I think Chet Holmgren, there's just too many other guys on his own team that are going to take away usage. And nobody's going to take away Victor Wembanyama's usage.
Yeah, so for me, it's just Wemby. Like it would have to be, we talked about last night, it would have to be an injury to him and a significant one because you don't even have to play 65 games to win Rookie of the Year. It only applies to other positions. But we are wrapping up here, Eric. Is there anything that you want to add that we've not talked about yet?
I mean, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I have more of than I should. I'm not saying to go out and jam him. There are so many good plays on this slate, but always be swapping, always be paying attention to ownership too. If you have some dead lineups, you can salvage some money by finding low-owned pivots, by reacting to a piece of news. Maybe we get a surprising center starter, although it would very much surprise me if Lively wasn't the starter there. You had Powell who got upgraded from questionable. That kind of puts some things in flux. Again, I don't know what that ends up being. Today is a day that we're going to learn a lot, though, about rotations because it is official. Just be watching, be prepared, and know that everything is not concrete going forward, but it's going to really help us indicate the future.
All right, that is going to do it for us today, guys. If you have not done it, do us a big favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck tonight, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.